All right, here we are, guys. For those watching and tuning in right now, I want to welcome everybody. Thank you guys for joining us. This is the first podcast that we've had in a while. We're bringing back our podcast, and hold up, I got something popping on my screen here. This should not be showing up on here. All right, hopefully this does not mess me up. Cancel scan. Okay, something wants to scan on my computer here. All right, so I'm gonna go away so I can see my screen. I can't see my screen yet. All right, there we go. I'm sorry about that. So yeah, tonight we got the podcast going. I'm going to be watching the live chat. Anybody else that wants to watch the chat, because we have the chat available on. As far as I know, we are live both on Facebook and YouTube. So if you're on either one, we'll try our best to watch out on chat. If you have questions for our guests, please ask away. And again, we will try our best to keep up with the chat. And I'm excited. We got a really awesome guest tonight, Mr. Tim Vogel. Uh, his brother Eric. I think Eric had to work tonight, if I'm not mistaken. So
he is. He's working.
So
it's probably 5 below where he is.
Oh wow!
And snowing.
Wow. Yeah,
it was a chilly night for him.
I took my grandson to school this morning. I think the temperature was about 14 degrees here this morning. It got up into the 30s, but that's about it. So, yeah. So
we're up in Western Mass.
I'm in I was going to ask you.
Russell, Mass right now.
When you say Western Mass, like what area? I don't know if I know it, but
it's out near Pittsfield and Westfield, in between. So just south. It's kind of south of southwestern Mass. Southwestern Mass. If you're looking at the map.
My parents may know of it.
Right in the corner. Hamden County, right in the corner.
Okay. Are you familiar with Douglas, Mass, by any chance?
No, everything out that way is Boston.
Oh, okay.
See, you know the deal.
I'm originally from Massachusetts, but when I tell people that, they're like, "Oh, you're from Boston." I said, "No, Boston was way easier."
Yeah, no, I get it. No, yeah. I'm here in Western Mass, and really, we say everything past Worcester is Boston, and everything out there they usually say, "Oh, it's just ski country or vacation land," or and that's the Western Mass, Berkshires. That's where I'm at.
Yeah,
kind of the foothills of the Berkshires.
Okay, now you mentioned Worcester because Douglas is not far from Worcester. So.
Yeah, that's in Central Mass.
Right.
That's kind of Ronnie LeBlanc has a book out there called Monsterland. That's right in his neighborhood, right in the center. Leominster, out that way. Leicester, all that, out that way.
Okay. So to start us off, Tim, I was wondering if you want to give us a little background, like what got you and Tim involved in doing the research? What put you guys out there to do all this?
Well, it was 2013, and we had. Let me back up. We used to own a adventure education business, a guiding business, and we taught everything from rock climbing to wilderness canoeing, first aid, you name it. It was an outdoor education leadership certification program. You came to us for wilderness first aid certification, skiing, rock climbing. If you wanted to be a viable, hireable guide, you came and we would provide you with the education, get you certified, and off you go into what part of the world you want, So that's what we did. We ran an adventure education business for almost 20 years. And that was our bread and butter. And we still worked. We had regular jobs as well. Currently, I'm a ranger, and Eric's construction, doing something out in Pittsfield, and he's kind of retired, but he's doing his own thing up there. Anyway, like I said, I'm a ranger. I still work full time, and I do the Cobble Mountain Critter Project with my brother, and that kind of came about after we had we had almost 20 years, well, not 20, 15 years or so, 16 years of investigations and research. So back in 2013, Eric and I are on a wilderness canoe trip, and we're guiding people like we had been all summer long. And we decided we were going to go on vacation. And we're up in the St. Regis Wilderness Canoe area in upstate New York in the upper Adirondacks. This is really up in the up country, and it's only paddle and portage. There's no motors allowed. It's wilderness area, so it's not supposed to be planes and all that. But I suppose you'd hear one or two maybe. Having said that, you're out there. You're out there pretty far. So Eric and I, we were guiding out there, and we've been guiding out there for almost 15 years. And when this had happened, we had never, ever, ever, ever had any issues guiding with anything from bears to deers to, I mean, you have your normal run-ins and they go away and you just continue on, and it's sort of uneventful and you don't even think about it. You just keep going. Well, 2013, we decided we were going to go on vacation in this little place. We were going to go paddling for vacation, and we ended up in this little place called Pink Pond in New York. And in New York, when you're camping on state properties in the wilderness area, there's designated campsites. And there was only one campsite designated for this pond. And we went in this area specifically to end our paddling season. It was middle of September, it was just September, late September, and everybody was back in school. Midweek, everybody's at work. So we thought we'd have the wilderness out that section. From the everyday traveler, we'd have it, pretty much buttoned up, and we'd be the only ones out there. And sure enough, when we got to the put-in at the trailhead, there's no cars, there's no nothing. And really, that's the only place to access it, except for a few other places. And then you literally link all these lakes together with trails. So it's paddle and portage. So once you park, you're out there. And you can go for days and days and days. We do 50 and 100-mile trips out there weekly when we were doing the guide business. And and like I said, it was pretty much uneventful. It was almost cookie cutter and routine. That's kind of how it was. And so we go out to this place, and we're hoping we're all alone. We get out there and we are all alone. We get to this campsite, and we had to go up through this little creek, and it's kind of dry. So we had to muck up through the mud and carry the boat a little bit. We get into this creek or into the pond, and we go up to the designated campsite, and it's trashed. And this is very, very, very unlike the regular campsites out there. They're pristine. The rangers go through them. They're clean. This was not a typical campsite. And like I said, I'd been there for almost 15 years, going to these sites out in these wilderness sites, and they're pretty decently. This looked like it was purposely trashed with trees brought in, broken, and the campsite was filled with debris trees. And so we didn't really have much of an option. We carried in, we paddled in. It was getting late. We didn't have much, we didn't have many options to go spend the night. So we just cleared a hole, moved the trees away, and we figured we'd burn that up as campfire wood. And we did. We just made a ripping campfire that night. Didn't know we were going to need it, but we made a ripping campfire. So we get to the campsite, we find it's trash, we decide we're going to stay there, we make our camp, and now we're going to go fishing. And that was going to be our planned meal. And we get out on the lake, and I'm paddling, and Eric's fishing, and we had the fly rod, and a little 5-weight fly rod, and we're throwing woolly buggers out. Eric's throwing woolly buggers out there, and he's catching smallies. And if you smallmouth, they just break the water and dance. They're just a whole bunch of fun. Now you put that on a fly rod, and it's nuts. And so he was catching these things like a fish story. Just every cache he was catching fish. And so we just paddled and paddled and paddled. And so, we had more than enough fish to eat. So it was more about fishing at this point. And it hadn't gotten too dark. So it was kind of getting there, but it wasn't. It's September, so it's still, it's 70 out, and there wasn't a breeze or nothing. It was beautiful, beautiful night, beautiful going into dinner. And we come to this little creek, this little confluence. This creek comes into the lake, and we go paddle up there. And it's really braided. There's kinds of in other words, there's many choices. As you're paddling forward, there's like all these different choices you can go. It's a braided stream. It ends up coming out to a beaver pond that there's a beaver dam actually right in front of us. We paddled right up to this beaver dam. It's probably, I'm sitting in a canoe, so it's head level. It's probably 4 feet tall, and I'm casting up over the beaver dam. Now I'm fishing, and I start catching a fish, and the fish breaks the water. And as soon as this fish breaks the water, all of a sudden all hell broke loose. There was yelling and screaming, and this was silent except for the noise we were making and the little bubbly stuff that was oozing through the beaver pond. That's the kind of tone it was. And then all of a sudden that fish broke the water, so there was that little excitement, and then screaming and yelling and roaring, and then tree shaking, and then a second tree is shaking. And this is just, I've never, ever experienced anything like it before. There's nowhere to go to remotely know what was going on. I didn't know how to identify what was yelling at us, and it was screaming so loud. And the trees were shaking so violently, we actually ended up backing out. And as we were backed out, we backed out. We're watching this thing. Eric wanted to leave, and I'm like, no, let's check it out. And I actually wanted to go check it out, but he wasn't having it. He's like, no way, we're out. And yeah, and literally, it wasn't. Everything was unnerving, but it was kind of the curiosity factor was there. We had to watch this. These trees were shaking like they were in a snow globe. Like you took a tree and put it in a snow globe, like a plant, and put it and shook it like that. And that's how these trees were shaking. 2 trees in the whole forest. These 2 trees were shaking, unreal. And then stuff started coming out of the trees or from the trees, be it rocks, logs, sticks, but it was coming out at us. And we were probably 50 to 70 yards from the shoreline where these trees were shaking. And we couldn't see anything. It's a boreal forest. There's a lot of pine and these box elder trees, which this ended up being, I believe. We actually went back a year later and measured those trees, and they were 8 inches to 10. One was 8, one was 10. And you take an 8 or a 10-inch tree and try shaking it like it's in a snow globe, and it just doesn't happen. You and 10 of your buddies couldn't do it. And this thing was shaking like unrealistically shaking. Now, the roaring only got louder. This stuff still came out. It was splashing. That was kind of freaking us out. And the roaring took a tone where it went right through you like you're at a Ted Nugent concert. The reverb just went right through you. As it yelled, and it yelled loud and higher, you could feel the volume in your body. You could actually feel it and as it went lower, you could feel those tones in your body. It was bizarre. And then it got really, really, really aggressive. The sound, the roaring did. It went from scary roaring to really aggressive, scary roaring. And I decided, it's time to back out, because we thought whatever was there at this point might be coming out at us. And that's that. So we had to go back through that braided stream, kind of backwards, and just so we could see what was coming at us. And we ended up back out in the lake before the trees stopped shaking and the roaring stopped. We were out in the lake. And it was just unreal. But it ended up stopping. There was no visual. I never saw it. It was just outside the tree line, just outside the tree. There was some pine trees, small, thick pine trees. And it was probably 20, 30 yards past that, maybe 20 yards past the shoreline into these trees. So you really couldn't see anything, but these trees is what gave it away. This whole thing went on for 10 minutes or so. We didn't have a watch. We were fishing for dinner. I didn't have a camera. I didn't have nothing. We had some hemostats to pull a fly out, and a couple of flies that were in a box in our canoe. our paddles, and that was about it. There was nothing, that was it. A couple
And
water bottles.
as far as the roaring and stuff, when you heard it, did it sound like it was getting any closer to you at all, or did it stay at that distance where the trees were, where it was in one location?
Yep. No, it stayed there. We couldn't tell if it was moving, but we believe it stayed there. And the thing about the roaring, I said it went on for maybe 10 or 15 minutes. Like, we didn't have a watch, so it was a long time. At least it felt that 15 minutes. But this never stopped roaring. It never came up for air. Whatever was there never, ever, ever stopped. It started roaring and it never stopped for at least 10 or 15 minutes. So now that's all I can tell you is when we were there. Monday morning quarterbacking, we're believing now that there was multiple Bigfoot there. And when one was stopped, the other, it just, it was like maybe a family group in there. But anyways, I'll back up. It never stopped roaring for almost 10 or so minutes. And eventually it all stopped when we went back out into the lake, and it just stopped. So we decided we were going to paddle back to our campsite. And Eric says, hey, and I says, yeah, I know. Our campsite is only a couple hundred yards up on the same side as where this is taking place, on the shoreline of the same lake. There's not a lot of, there's no getting in your car, no, none of that, no hitting that. We had to go back to our campsite and deal with it. And that's where the big fire came in later. That debris that we believe now the Bigfoot had put in there. So we had this big old fire that night, nothing happened. And that was it. Boom, that's done. And that was, we didn't know what it was. We didn't know if it was we weren't thinking Bigfoot. To be honest, we were thinking it was like a bear and a mountain lion, maybe a couple of them beating each other up. It was so far out there with the sounds and the tree shaking. It was surreal. The trees it was like you took a plant and really it was that crazy. You wouldn't think a tree could do it, but it did. And so we get up that morning. It's just a break of daylight, probably 4:30, 5 o'clock. We got the canoe packed up. We are ready. We are out the next morning. And as we're taking off, we get to the put-in where our vehicle is going to be. We actually ran into a ranger and said, hey, what's going on with you? We heard, some roaring and stuff going on out there. He never really acknowledged it. Yeah, okay, it's probably a bear or something. Well, bears don't roar. Not like that. Lions roar. Mountain lions don't really roar. They kind of bark and hiss and scream a little bit, but not a lot of roaring with that kind of stuff. So here we are now. That's happened. We go into Monday morning quarterbacking, and we had such a phenomenal, or Eric had such a phenomenal day fishing, that we believe now that those creatures were there. We believe it was Bigfoots, multiple Bigfoot, and it was multiple because the sound never stopped, like I mentioned. And we believe that they probably started fishing way up at the top of this little creek. And there were multiple Bigfoot. So this creek is probably, I don't know, 4 to 6 feet wide, a little creek, mountain creek, and it was dammed up by a beaver dam. And it was probably room wide, maybe 50 feet wide, something like that, from end to end. And we believe that these Bigfoot now were walking down that creek fishing. My buddy Dave has some hand casts of these Bigfoot, and it looks like a first baseman's mitt. It's just ginormous. Now, if you can envision a 8-9 foot creature, and he's got 2 hands, and he's just walking them through like a fishing net in this little creek, and they're just pushing everything down towards that beaver pond. And once they pushed everything to that beaver pond, there's their fish trap. Now all they got to do is go through there and catch fish, and that might be a potential. They might have been there fishing, and that might be how they done it, or how they did it. And so they seen us coming up this creek, and they say, oh, wow, hey, look at the humans. Look at that. Oh, goofy little stupids. Look, we were the entertainment, I'm sure. And there was nothing said, nothing, until that fish came out of that water up in the beaver dam area where they had just probably walked and pushed all those fish potentially. And now I'm stealing their fish. And I'm sure they said, no, we ain't having that. And they started yelling and screaming. And it was just a cacophony of noise for 10 or 15 minutes. And it was unmistakable. Whatever they were yelling said, get out, leave. That's what there was, it took me a while because it just did. I just was too curious to see what was going on because it didn't make sense. It just,
the hand cast, the individual had him. He was with you at the time?
no, that guy, he just has an assortment of cast collections. And in this collection, he has a hand cast of a Bigfoot. And it looks like a first baseman's mitt.
Did he have that cast before this encounter, or would he acquire that after? And how did he come about that cast?
No. Actually, these two aren't related. The two stories.
Okay, I got you. Okay,
I was using it more as an example.
Gotcha. Okay,
just an example. That's how big their hands were. It was just like a baseball mitt, first baseman's glove. That's how big this thing is. So if you can envision a 9-foot creature, 8-foot creature, maybe a 5-foot creature, and they're walking through pushing this 6-foot creek or 6-foot wide creek, and there's a couple of them. They may be actually being like a wall, moving the fish down into this holding pen now, which would be the beaver pond where we were fishing. So that's kind of what we were thinking, and they tolerated it right up until the point I caught the fish, and then they weren't having it, and they scared the hell out of us. And we left, and that was it. And then we found the world of, this was 2013, and then we found the world of Facebook. We ran into a couple of different groups and things like that, and said, "Wow, this is very similar." And the next thing you know, we were involved with a group called Squatchachusetts for a little while. Actually, for probably 10, 12 years anyway. And we were with the BFRO as well.
Yeah. Did you say the group called Squatchachusetts?
Yeah.
You know what? I met them back in Ohio in 2007.
Yeah, I remember meeting you.
Okay. I was trying to remember.
You were there with Tracy.
Yeah, Tracy Arnold. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if you guys.
I got a picture with you, me, Dave McCullough, and that's the guy with the hand cast. And we were there with Squatchachusetts and the BFRO.
Because I got to thinking, I said, "Wait a minute! I don't think I ever met them in person." But then you mentioned that, I was like, "Duh."
Yeah. No, it was a brief encounter. We were kind of hanging out for a little while.
Yeah. That was a good time. I had fun there. That's for sure.
Ohio it was definitely a meet and greet. A lot of people go there. There's a lot of information to be shared there. Those guys always put on a good show anyway. So.
Oh yeah.
With the years you've been a ranger, has anybody come to you with any weird stories?
I just received a story a couple days ago. I was up in a little cafe up the way here, a little diner in town, a little country diner, and I'm having breakfast, and a lady says, "Hey, are you the Bigfoot guy?" And everybody gets a chuckle. Yeah, I'm the guy. And, so she proceeds to tell me her story of she's a summer resident. She has a second home up here in the hill towns, and one's on the lake in Otis. And she had an experience fishing. She was just out there fishing, and I believe it was in the morning, and she saw this Bigfoot kneeling, kind of drinking water. That's what she thought it was doing. And it was a few seconds of an encounter. It wasn't, she saw it. They acknowledged each other. They looked at each other. It stood up and it turned around and walked away. By the time she could figure out really what she was looking at, and she really wasn't sure, but she pretty much thought she saw Bigfoot. But, that's like seeing a unicorn, right? Until you see it. And then, so she went to look for the Rangers, and the Rangers weren't there at the boat ramp. And so the long story short is she held that story for years until she ran across this guy, a Bigfoot guy in a restaurant, decided to share her story. But that's kind of how we get a lot of our local stuff. When we were with the BFRO, we did Massachusetts, and we were involved with a bunch of different groups up here. And Eric and I wanted to focus on Western Mass, and so we started the Cobble Mountain Critter Project, and we started talking libraries and things like that. And we've got, almost 16, 17 years of experience in investigations and research. Eric's got a number of Class A's. I've seen it a number of times. This is, how does one guy or two guys get to see a Bigfoot that many times? Well, I've been doing it for nearly 20 years, realistically. And when we were with these different groups and people know it, you get reports. So you go out, you're like the Bigfoot cops. So when they get something, you're the call, and you get the call and you go out. Now you're looking at tracks. I've got a track right here that I believe you were on a podcast with a couple buddies of mine, Richie B and Wojo.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they came with us. This is a cast. It's 17 inches, almost 8 inches wide. I mean, there's your toes. There's the top half. This is the part you'd see as you poured it. And then it's lettered here. This was done in July 3rd, 24. So we wrote it right in it. It's in there. But
Very
this
nice.
is the actual foot right there. Came up out of a creek. This there's a rock involved. And this rock goes right there.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That's wicked.
And so when it's laying on the ground, you're looking at that. It was stepped on. So we're looking at that, and that's poured. And now we pull the cast, and this rock came with it. But that's basically your cast. It's a 5-inch heel, 8 inches across, and I sent this cast off as we do. We've got a half a dozen casts. All of our casts we've sent off to Dr. Meldrum, God bless him. And this one here in particular, he had said, Tim, that one has potential. This one was found in, you guys may have heard of this place, October Mountain State Forest at Felton Pond. It's a popular place. Go check it out. Go Bigfoot. And I don't care. Some people are kind of freaked out on sending people off to their Bigfoot spot. Well, this is a Bigfoot spot in a state park that has access to the Appalachian Trail, over 50 miles of off-the-road trail stuff, horses, you name it. Me showing up or somebody else showing up isn't going to interfere with a Bigfoot up there. In my opinion, as a ranger for nearly 20 years, camps and the woods have a rhythm to it. And there's a natural rhythm and a natural flow. If there's a camp, you're going to have weekend traffic, and it's going to lull out, and it's going to weekend traffic, and that's going to be the rhythm. And they know it, just like the bears come into a camp and go through the trash, and they know not to come in during the weekend because it's going to be filled, or this, that, or the other thing. There's a rhythm and a flow to it, and they know how to manipulate it, and they know how to maximize it. When a bear goes into a cabin, they make a mess and they don't shut the door. That's so they our thing here is you keep a nice clean camp and you don't worry about that kind of stuff. Having said that, in our camp we've had 3 or 4 I think BFRO expeditions. All four of those expeditions ended up with Class A sightings, meaning visual sightings for the group. Savoy State Forest in 2015, back when we were first meeting you, I believe, Daniel. That was my brother's first encounter. I didn't have that encounter. I was back here doing a fishing program, and they had a 14 people out in the woods, an expedition through the BFRO, and 2 of them saw it, my brother being one of them, and the guy with the GoPro was standing behind a tree. Bigfoot's there, trees there, 2 guys are there that see it. You can literally see 2 guys pointing at it. You're looking at a GoPro, no sound. You see 2 guys I don't know, 60 yards apart from each other, and they're simultaneously pointing, and then they run towards it. And this dude is standing there unknowingly behind the tree where this thing is. And of course, you don't get it. You get us this tree. So there's no footage there. We do believe we have a shot that we've pulled out of a frame that is this Bigfoot. They believe they ran into 3 Bigfoot that day, potentially. And the one they ran into was in between 2 others because the group had broken up, and they had, as the group goes on, they have watchers on either end of the group to see if they're being watched on either side, kind of flanking. And they're checking for flankers or peripheral watchers, stuff that's like that. And they sent a couple people back saying, hey, there's knocks over here, and then this guy over here had claps, actual hand claps. And he could tell it wasn't it wasn't one of us, the tone or something. So anyways, they sent it back to my brother, the 2 guys, and he said, hey, who wants to do a whoop? And I guess this little kid who was in the group had done a whoop, and they believed it was so soft that it was cool, nice try, but they got a reply back, and next thing you know, all this stuff happened. Yeah, it was a very subtle whoop. They say people talk about they're attracted to female voices or kids' voices or children's voices. That you'll hear talk like that. I'm not familiar with it. I've never experienced it, but that in particular, that one case, maybe, where a child did a vocal and it elicited a response of wood knocks and hand claps to an encounter. So they went back, they looked for tracks and everything, and they didn't find anything, the whole group. Eric came back and said, hey, Tim, we got to go back the next day. The expedition was over. We went back the next day, and we combed it, and we did the whole, where were you standing? And let's go back to the tree. So we brought the range finder. He's 40 yards. It's a 40-yard experience. This isn't that far. And he's looking right at it. And it's 40 yards. He says it's 9 feet tall. We did the whole measuring thing. I stood next to the tree that it was, and I took my hat and I had to put it on a stick to get it up to where the top of his head was. And Eric estimated that at around 9 feet tall. And he says about like the size of a sheet of plywood.
Wow.
And it was jet black. Jet black. He didn't see forms, definitive looks, eyes. He didn't see any of that. He saw that ginormous silhouette, and then he saw it take off and run. And that's when the other guy saw it. He saw the lower half. He saw the legs. There's a big pine tree down, and there's the bulk of the pine tree log. The log itself was kind of blocking one guy's view of the upper section, but you could see the legs, and he saw it. So we go back in the next day, and we get right from there, and I started to do a circle pattern to find tracks so you don't cut them out. I just didn't, you just start off small and do a circular pattern. You're going off. If something starts off here and it has to land within 10 feet or so, unless it's really out there jumping. So you circular pattern, and then I found a track, and this thing was 17 and a half inches by, another 8-inch track, similar to this one here, a little different toe structure. And then 7 feet away, we found the heel. We found the heel strike. The heel strike went in 3 inches into the ground, and we lost bits of the toe, the details. So you got a great heel strike and part of the foot. And then in the second one was 7 feet away, and the toes actually came up on a hemlock tree, a rotted hemlock log, like the roots, and it kind of peeled the roots, but we couldn't cast it. It didn't show because it was on a root. But the bark came off. You could see the bark was, but it didn't cast. So the mud that we were pouring, the plaster, it just went up to that point, but you couldn't really tell. But the reason why we did take the cast was to show that something made an impression 7 feet away, the same depth as the heel of this cast. So even though it wasn't, when I show you the cast, you say, oh, But when I hold it all up, and it all makes sense. So
Right.
maybe Eric and I will bring the cast when we go to Virginia down there. Well, I don't know where we're going.
Yeah.
We're supposed to know anyway, right?
Outside
of the group.
Yeah.
That's all
Yeah.
right. Let's go. We'll figure it out later.
Well, real quick, I got a question from one of the viewers, but before we get into that, now one of the things about area you mentioned about you don't care if other people come in. I mean, yes and no. It's the same with us, but I mean, I invite people openly to come to our area, but it's just at the same time, I'm cautious because I don't want people coming in there to hoax the area. Or like, I want
Oh yeah,
if
yeah.
what we find, I want it to be authentic. To know, hey, okay, nobody knows what we're doing here. What we find, I wanted to feel it's more legit. If that makes sense.
No, and the more remote and the less visited, the better.
Yeah.
This place has a history. I'm not going to change the history. I'm a part of it. I'm just there
Right.
day to day checking it out. And if there's a track, I'm going to cast it. And I've been in it long enough to know if it's fake or not. I know if it's a plat. I question everything. Not everything is a Bigfoot.
You have to, yeah.
Right.
You shouldn't. It shouldn't be your go-to.
Right.
Oh, it's Bigfoot. Even though it looks like a Bigfoot track.
Right. And trying to rule things out and look at all other possible suspects. Yeah. I know for a fact it's easier said than done. I mean, you want to be able to rule out all other possibilities, but then, like even all the new people involved with this, the new enthusiasts, it's easy to have Bigfoot on the brain to say, hey, okay, this is Bigfoot. Well, we can't say that for sure, but then again, you want to, but you can't.
Well, I can tell you, I see a generation of kids and young adults that are really new to this camping idea. I see it weekly, and I'm bailing a lot of them out because they don't know how to do things, basic things. Things I mean, as far as using a matchbook. Give a kid a matchbook today and tell them to light it. I probably ought to stop there, but
no, you're right.
Different. It's just different times. They got a lighter. They didn't have to worry about a magnet. So, anyways, it's a different mindset. There's not a lot of people. When I see the woods being used differently, I see the hunting people, the population dwindle down. There's less people engaged. There's more recreation, but it's very passive. It's kind of the cool stuff. You get on a mountain bike and you're in a car at the end of the day, or maybe it's a quick snowshoe or a hike, in your quick local park, that kind of recreation. But this backcountry stuff, the further you can get back, like where I'm at, we have a 1,300 acre property that abuts numerous forests and state forests and this land and that land and blah, blah, blah. You can go hours and hours and hours and hours and not cut a road if you head south from my camp. So, there's tons of property here for something like this to happen or live and at least make a living, whether it's passing through or however, people want to decide what they do. But we certainly have the property for it.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you a couple questions. Well, one question is from me, and then the one question I have from William Nighthawk on here. As far as this location that you guys had the tree shaking and the roaring and everything, was this not the first time you guys been to this location, or was this the first time?
That was the very first time. We were brand new. We were we weren't squatching. We were fishing for dinner, and it went awry because the fishing was wicked good. It was wicked good. It was a fish after each cast. Boom, boom, boom. We were nailing them, and it ended up with a Bigfoot thing at this end of this creek. And we had no idea. Like I said, we really thought it was maybe a mountain lion or bears, or it just didn't make sense because we didn't know how to identify the noise. Simple as that. And the tree shaking was so surreal. I mean, other than in a cartoon or a snow globe, you'd see tree shaking like that. And that's what we saw. Simple as that.
Yeah, it sounds to me like you was catching the supper, all right.
We do. We believe we interrupted their,
Yeah.
I think they went and were fishing that creek. I do.
Absolutely.
Honestly do.
I think they're smart enough to do that, set up
Yeah.
traps and stuff like that. I mean, that's
Oh
my
yeah.
opinion.
Other critter, I try to, I've had, I've had some woo experiences with Bigfoot. Um, and, and I want to believe it's all flesh and blood. And I tell you,
Right.
flesh and blood leaves a track.
Right.
I'm there. I'm with you. I've got a half a dozen casts. Something left those tracks. I'm with you 100%.
Now, you mentioned you had some woo experiences, which
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up because we're going to get into a couple things I want to ask you regarding
All right.
that because we've experienced things which we tend to want to point in the paranormal side of things,
Mhm.
but which is we're not I don't know we're not sure yet because we don't know what we experienced. So, but I'm going to
Yeah.
ask you about that very shortly. Real quick, let me ask you this question here from William
Yeah.
Nighthawk. He wanted to know if you've during any of your encounters, have you had any complete silence or the smell of copper during anything?
Very good question, but no, not like that. Yes, we had smells, and it was the same place we took this cast. We had another experience in 2016, I want to say. I think it was 2016 up there, and another group, a dozen people. This is 1 o'clock in the morning. The beautiful thing about this is I've got a dozen witnesses. Simple as that. It's not just my story. It's not Eric's story. Almost all of our experiences, we've had other witnesses with us. So we can quantify it by just asking them. So anyways, we're out there. We've got a dozen or so people with us. It's about 1 o'clock in the morning. It's late. Um, it's raining. We've got these TK Scouts, these little FLIRs. They're pretty decent little monoculars, and they're pretty decent on a good day. This was at night with a drizzle at 100 yards away, so it was really maxed out. And the little things did their best, but when we were looking through it, we could actually see what we were looking at. But when you push record, it came out very pixelated, and it just didn't show what we were seeing. So we never put it out there. I'm not going to be that guy where I got to draw circles and try to explain what I'm talking about. I'm
Right.
not going to do it. If you can't see it, we ain't going to do it. It's simple.
Yeah.
And this was simple as that. Now we all experienced this thing. Now what happened was, this is going with that smell. We got there and we're set up. We're sitting there for a half hour, maybe 40 minutes, and all of a sudden, Chuck, one of the guys in the group, says, "Hey, can you smell that?" And sure enough, it was one of these smells that, oh yeah, I guess you're right. We do smell something. It was different, and it was brought in. So, and then it left. So it was there and then it was gone. And it took a little while, but the smell showed up and then it left. So it was transient, which means if something went through some skunk cabbage and broke up some skunk cabbage, the skunk cabbage would be there for 3 days smelling like broken skunk cabbage, right?
Oh yeah.
This wasn't. This was a smell that came and it left. And it came when we were watching this Bigfoot thing, and it left when it disappeared. So it was transient. This odor was transient. So yes, I believe we smelled a Bigfoot. I believe that's what it was. Now, what happened was we smelled it, and almost simultaneously, one of the guys said, "Hey, look up over here." And we're looking through the flares, and there's this red object on the log. And we don't know this at the time, but it's 100 yards away, 90 yards away through the rangefinder. And we went back the following day again through follow up, and we found out that there was an ash tree almost 90 feet long that had fallen down. And so that's what this thing was walking on. So I'll step back. We're sitting there that night. It's drizzly. We just noticed this smell that was brand new to us. And now we're seeing something on the FLIR. Now a half a dozen people are looking through their FLIRs and whatever else go gadgets they got. And they're trying to record and all this stuff. Nothing, comes to find out, nothing really recorded that well that far away. We called this thing the pacing Bigfoot. It started off going, maybe 10 feet, go back, 15, 20 feet, go back. And it did this all the way up that tree, almost 80 feet. So it went back a half a dozen times to a, let's call it a starting point. And it just kept going back until the very end. It got to the very end of the tree. It hopped off the tree and it walked into the woods and it disappeared into the woods. We could no longer see it with the FLIRs. And that was it. We figured we were done. That was an amazing thing. We didn't, we're lucky we had that. We're fixing to pack up, put our gear away, and head out. It's just now 1 o'clock in the morning, easily. And like someone turned a light on in the middle of the woods, 50 feet up on this 100-foot pine tree, halfway up this pine tree, this blue crystal ball pops on like a nightlight. Poof! And it's just on in the middle of the woods, this glowing ball. It's just there. And, we're picking our jaws up from the ground, all of us, because what the hell is this? And it just sat there. And now we're all looking at it. And it just simply, it didn't last long, but it came on. We're all looking at it. Probably 5 or 6 seconds total, but it went from 50 feet up all the way up to the top of the tree, which was another 50 feet or so. It never went around a branch. It just went straight up the trunk of the tree, went to the very top of the tree, and then it traversed the tree line that we were looking at. 1, 2, 3, 4, gone. Ish. Gone.
David, does that sound almost familiar?
Yeah, give me goosebumps.
I know.
What we seen was a pure white, but the ball you seen, question for you, was it a solid color or did it radiate any, like it could have been energy? Because what we seen didn't radiate, didn't emit light, didn't do nothing. It was a spherical light, about maybe 6 to 8 inches in diameter, about 40 yards from us, about 3 to 4 foot off the ground. Wow. It wasn't up in the trees. It wasn't up in the sky. I seen it for about 2 seconds. I got Daniel's attention. He's seen it. This is about 10 o'clock at night, 9:45, 10 o'clock in the evening where it was dark. He's seen it for about 2 seconds. It just flared up just a bit and then went out. Gone.
Yeah.
And it wasn't moving around, really. I mean, it was just there.
Yeah.
I know that's the first time I've seen anything like that. And I've got an analytical mind, and I'm sitting there thinking, what the hell did I just see? I've heard stories about lights before in the past.
Yeah.
I've seen it on TV. A lot of them, like a glowing, radiating. I guess some of it could be true, but science says you do get balls of energy that comes up from the tectonic plates at time and whatnot.
Yeah, ball lightning and stuff.
Yeah, but this didn't give any of that indication. It was a round, solid, spherical light. It was bright, but it didn't hurt your eyes. It didn't throw a beam like a flashlight. It didn't radiate the area. Now,
it's kind of like a glow ball.
Yeah, but it was just pure white.
Yeah,
And we didn't have our flashlights on at the time because we'd like to walk. For most of us, for the most part, like to walk around in the dark out there because I don't want somebody seeing us coming a mile away if they're out there. Because we go out in primitive camping. Our area is primitive also. And that I'm retired military. I'm retired sheriff here in Virginia. So my mindset is I want proof.
Sure.
If I see something, I'm going to I want more answers. I ain't gonna take it for what it is. But after hearing all the stories on TV and other people talk about it, then when you experience something yourself for the first time, it puts it in a whole new, different perspective. And what was strange about that night, the reason we were heading back to camp before we saw the light, about 20 minutes prior, we left another one of our members sitting out by himself between us and the camp where we were camping at. And he's seen eye shine, a couple of different eye shines off in the field. Yeah. And it spooked him a little bit. He's from Richmond, city boy. He knows a little bit about wildlife. We do have black bear and stuff like that around here. Some people say we got mountain lion, rangers, and forest people say no, they don't. No, they're not here in Virginia.
Bobcats.
But whatever, all that. But 2 different locations that he tried to leave them, and one of them was like it was stalking him across, and he could see the eye shine grass in the field was about maybe 2 to 3 foot off the ground. I mean, the field was covered in grass. He was observing that for a few minutes. He even took out a little whistle and blew it to try to spook it. He tried to walk down the gravel road a little bit to see if what would happen, and it was following catty corner. Well, that spooked him enough. He was running back to camp. She calls us on the radio because we carry radios, remember, out there.
Yep.
And because they were back at base camp. And then after she told us about what happened with him and he was spooked, we started heading back to camp. 20 minutes later, then we seen that ball of light. Are they connected? I can't say. It just raises more questions when you encounter stuff like that. I know Daniel's seen lights up in Pennsylvania with different colors and stuff like that, but this ball was pure, just round, not emanating any light. We pulled out our thermals to see if we could pick up any heat signatures around the area.
No.
We could not pick up anything on mine or his. And
as soon as we saw that light the first time, I pulled my thermal. Me and David, we got really good thermal images. They're not the 20, 30, 50, whatever $1,000 devices.
No,
but we got good devices. You can see very far and pretty clear with them. Yeah. And with our devices, like as soon as we seen that, like immediately I pulled out my thermal. Entertaining the thought, was there somebody over there hiding in the bushes? No, I never picked nothing up. David said, stay there. He walked up ahead in total darkness, pulled out his thermal, tried to capture, looking at a different angle at what we saw. He never picked nothing up. But what David just told you guys, when you talk about Drew, when he had his encounter, that which we learned about after that, when we got back to camp, we basically kind of did a debriefing, and where Drew took us through the whole scenario. And I couldn't help. I mean, I don't know if you guys thought the same thing, but I couldn't help but feel like what he described was a mountain lion. Mm-hmm. Now,
possibility, we don't know, but possibility.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to come up with ideas.
I mean, from other sources and locals in the years past, and people I've worked with, this general area has been known for mountain lions. They've seen mountain lions in this general area. I mean, there's an old timer that I used to work with. Said he grew up.
Even though they say they're not here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the authorities say we don't have them, but I seen one in my main research area, which is just south of this area, about 30, 40 minutes away. So,
no, we just had a report of a mountain lion a couple weeks ago, right up here in Blandford, Mass. Just right up the road from me, maybe 7 or 8 miles. It was 7 or 8 miles away from me anyway, up in Blandford. And that's as recent as a few weeks ago. We've definitely have a history of the mountain lions. They're definitely coming back, especially down where you guys are. The habitat is ripe. There might not be a lot, but they're going to be there. They're going to be there. Don't you guys have elk moving down in there?
Oh yeah. Well, elk is here.
Not in our area. They're more west of us, towards West Virginia, Kentucky, West Virginia line.
Well, there's actually elk hunters. If you go down to Southwest Virginia, which is about 2 or 3 hours south of us, if you go in the local Walmarts here in Virginia, down southwest, there's pictures of elk hunters with elk. I've driven through areas of Virginia itself. You're driving down these back roads, going into the mountains. They'll have signs elk crossing down there. So, but
see, in Massachusetts, we had moose. For the longest time, they weren't around here. They were more of a northern Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine thing, and they weren't allowed in Massachusetts. It just wasn't a thing. So if you saw a moose, it was a very rare. Now they've moved down, so moose are everywhere.
They'll migrate.
My point is that if you got 1 or 2 and they're going to settle in, they're going to be there. A cat's got a typical territory of like 60 to 100 miles, 60 to 80 miles maybe. They call it their territory. Now, many times different animals' territories overlap, and that may be where conflict comes in or this or that, but they have a territory, and that's what they claim as a territory. So there's, here I know we have them. Part of our business is, Bigfoot and mountain lion research. And we got into the mountain lion research. A good friend of ours, Jean Tewksbury up in Maine, she runs the Eastern Ghost Cat
Right. I know her.
research
Yeah.
project there. And she's been doing this for a long time with the mountain lions and cats. So we're not professing to be, old school mountain lion guys or something. No, we're simply gathering information primarily to help Gene attain information and data. When we go off and do our shows or library talks, wherever we end up, we almost guaranteed to get a mountain lion story tossed in with the Bigfoot stuff, almost guaranteed. And now we deliberately ask for a mountain lion story because we all kind of take it for granted. We've been hearing about it since I was a kid. The mountain lions here. No one ever bothered to take down my report or a story. We just take it for granted. And now we're trying to, do they live here? Is there, no one's quantifying it. No one's putting it down. It's just stories. It's just hearsay. We all talk about it, but no one's writing it down. No one's doing the research.
Right.
So we're actually putting pen to paper. And now we're taking names and putting towns. We're not going deep unless people want to give deep story, but we're just trying to come up with numbers that people are seeing and talking about. And so when the Fish and Wildlife or the game people are saying, hey, they don't live here, well, I got somebody to tell you differently, and here's 100 people and their stories, whereas we don't have that log yet, no one's doing it. So Gene's doing research in Maine with the Eastern Ghost Cat Project research, and we're simply helping her, not just her, but mountain lion in general, taking stories because it's kind of a blown off topic. Like I said, we all talk about it, but we don't write it down. And now we're going to try to write these encounters down and where they've seen them, quantify it, and see how many people are actually doing this.
Yeah.
Next month or two, we'll be down in. Eric and I will be down at the Springfield Sportsman Show. This is a big to do in Springfield. It's a big city.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's a big city. And we'll be down at the Sportsman Show, Bigfoot and mountain lion research. And, you get, the Bigfoot guys showing up at these sportsman shows. It's usually a good, fun joke on their behalf. No one takes us seriously. And then all of a sudden they start talking with you. And, oh, you know what? Let me tell you, this. Let me tell you about this story. And all of a sudden these stories come out, and it's usually older generation, happened when they were kids, and they're finally coming out. They're coming out because podcasts like this and all those shows that have been out, it kind of softens it up, makes people feel like they're not so crazy,
Yeah, but the AI stuff coming out nowadays, I think it's going to start to hamper that a little bit more too in the future. But there's a question on here a moment ago. Want to know if that was an orb that we may have seen or you. I can't say what it was. I can't say it was an orb portal. All I know is it wasn't a person in the woods walking with a flashlight because our dog Luna, she didn't pick up anything, smell any body odor. We know what we saw. We don't know what we saw. We saw it. I can't say what it was. We seen it. It was there for about 4 or 5 seconds. Then it disappeared. It was gone. Nothing left behind. No trace.
Well,
But this where we're camping at, we've been camping there real quick without getting a lot of detail for about the last 4 years in this primitive area. This past year, for some reason, we've been having a slew of different kind of activity. We met Daniel about 5, 6 years ago. We've always had the interest in the cryptids and the paranormal. Growing up, so we had paranormal stuff happen. I have yet to see a Bigfoot. I haven't seen any prints yet, that we could cast. But as far as the other side, this past summer in May is when we seen the light. Drew had his encounter. October, we had another camp out week long. We went for a week at a time. Then we had started having radio problems where our radios would go dead, come back on live.
Batteries, sure.
My viewpoint on that, if something's drawing the energy and you got a dead battery, then something took the energy. But if the energy is depleted and then when you get back to camp or you get ready to plug it in, but then the battery's full again, I can't explain why that's happening. But we was having radio issues. My action cam turned on and off by itself, and I was letting Melissa wear it one night. She showed me both times. She didn't touch the button, and you got to press that button in to turn it on.
Sure.
Okay, and it's not a tap. You got to hold
Mash
for maybe a second. I had an MP3 player, same thing. I'm getting my gear together. It's about 3 foot from me on the table, and I seen the light come on my MP3 player. Sometimes at daytime I play music when I'm at camp. You know, don't have much to do, and it came on by itself. So and the September prior to that, a couple came down from Pennsylvania. We showed them where they could walk to the lake at. They came back. We met up with them, and Cheryl told us that she seen a bear, but the description she gave us, running on 2 legs, bears can't do that.
Yeah.
Without getting into that story, because I mean that takes a little bit to get into that. But that September in 2004, she had that encounter, same area where we seen the light. I said 24.
Yeah.
2025, May, October, we have all this other stuff start happening, and then Daniel had a light incident the other night when he was out there by himself last month. So we don't know what's going on in this area. I mean, it's just intriguing. It's intriguing for one.
Yeah.
Something
in the area is
it grabs you, pulls you in.
Messing with us.
Yeah, I mean,
we're talking about Bigfoot,
yeah, Bigfoot.
It could be anything. It could be, spiritual. It could be supernatural.
Exactly.
It could
Exactly.
be, Ronnie LeBlanc talks about interdimensional.
We don't. Yeah, exactly.
All that stuff is very, very possible.
But
I would love to sit here and say it's flesh and blood 100%. And probably a year or two ago, maybe 3 years ago, I would have said, yeah, it's flesh and blood. Sure as hell, it's flesh and blood. Just like that's my coffee cup. I know it. It's flesh and blood. And then all of a sudden we had the orb show up. Now, when Eric saw his Bigfoot, he had seen an orange orb, more like the one you were talking about, smaller in diameter, 7 or 8 inches or so, is up in a field, and it was just there. He was standing side by side with a scientist that worked for Pfizer or something like that. And this scientist, they're looking at each other. They're dumbfounded. They can't even figure out it's just this orange ball of light in a field. It's like a lightning bug on super steroids or something. It was just this, light. And he's been out here in the camp many, many, many times. There's no lights. There's nothing out there. And this light showed up. The following day, he has a Bigfoot experience. Now,
well, Tim, I'll tell you this. Like I've said to David, like I said, I feel like I want to point a lot of our recent activity towards the paranormal side of things. And for people that hear the word paranormal, first of all, paranormal, they think of ghosts, spirits, hauntings, and whatever. But paranormal is related to things that are really unexplained. Even science don't know how to explain it. So it fits into that subject of paranormal.
Sure.
So, and then with all the recent activity we've had and what David even mentioned about, I was up there about a month ago. I spent some time up there doing some exploring and researching both day and night. And like I said, I had a fully charged flashlight, and I had a headlamp on. I had my flashlight. All this is documented and filmed, and everything that happened when I was by myself. Yeah. I had my phone with me. I was filming with my phone. I didn't have my camcorder with me, which I normally use, but my camera does a good job. However, I was up in the area where we seen that light, that strange light. Now, some people might say, oh, you saw an orb. Well, it was stationary. It wasn't moving and floating, all this good stuff. So, it leads that question to, like, what the heck we saw. But with that particular area, that's where my fully charged flashlight, which is super bright, went dead on me. And I'm pushing the button on it. It's not turning back on. I get back to camp, like thinking, okay, I got my power station there, my camp, and I'm getting ready to plug it up. I just so happen to push the button on it, and boom, it turns back on. All 4 lights indicating it's still fully charged. What the heck's going on here? So something in that area is really killing batteries or draining things and doing some weird stuff there. So,
Eric,
one other thing on that right quick is I've last several years I've done a lot of recording out there day and night on my DJI Action 4. One night this last camp out, when I was out there with Daniel and Craig was there and Drew, we walked down to an abandoned campsite nobody was at. I picked up some kind of static for about maybe 4 or 5 seconds. I've got it recorded. They heard it. I showed them. We don't know what generated that. First impression, it was like a bug was flying by, but I didn't hear nothing. Nothing else was picked up on any other recorders, but my cam picked up. You hear it very faintly. Then the hum gets bigger and then shuts off for about maybe 6 seconds later. I wanted to see if we could reproduce that. Nothing happened that night. The next night, I let Melissa go out on the hike with them. They went back to the same camp. They got up to where that same campsite is, and they were just above it a little bit before you had to walk down into it. And I'd be doggone, she didn't pick it up for about maybe 4 seconds. Not as loud, but you could faintly hear it. I mean, I could boost the other, so I don't know what caused that either. That was just another thing that happened during that camp out. We have no power lines around here. We have nothing like that. It's all primitive. What did it pick up? And it's the same area where we had the light. Drew had his encounter, maybe that Bigfoot encounter with Cheryl that past September. Radio problems. It's just a lot of stuff for this past year is happening, and we don't have any. We could talk about it till we're blue in the face to people, but until people get out there and experience it, get off the couch and put their coffee cup down instead of being naysayers, and ridicule people, get out and see what you can come up with. I can't pinpoint what it is. All I can say is it happened. Multiple people experienced it. Some things it's caught on audio and video, but we don't have concrete answers. But it did happen.
Oh yeah.
You know,
the orbs that I saw. The orb that I saw was blue in color, crystal blue in color. It was probably 200 yards away. And it was, like I said, 50 yards up, 50 feet up, 100-foot pine tree. And it just popped on. It was probably the size of a beach ball, maybe a little bit bigger. It emitted no light, but it was there. It was like a glowing ball, but it didn't, it was just there.
right.
And like I said, it floated right up the tree to the very top, and then it just slowly traversed the top of the trees and poof, disappeared, literally just gone.
Yeah. To give you a little background, like David mentioned earlier, I've seen lights up in Pennsylvania 2 hours prior to all this activity here in Virginia. And what's interesting is, because I've always heard people talk about these kind of things, and seeing strange lights in the woods. And this. I was the last person that I think I would ever experience anything like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I was living in Pennsylvania, I was dating a girl I actually lived with, and she was very much involved with the subject of Bigfoot herself. But through her, I got to learn about some of the state forests up there, and we started, visiting areas that we found that were of interest to us. So, long story short, the first time while spending time with her up there and visiting the one particular state forest up there, we had some activity. I won't get into the long drawn out activity. I mean, there was tree knocks involved prior to us hearing or seeing what I would describe as seeing a cluster of stars in the woods. And when I see a cluster of stars, some of them are blue, some of them there was a couple of yellows, and maybe even a couple of reds, and they were in a concentrated pattern. Now, I mind everybody. I tell you that this was in the month of between January and February, and up there it was very cold during this time. So yeah, we could easily rule out lightning bugs. I mean, I've seen tons of lightning bugs thrown up. I mean, these were not lightning bugs.
No,
they're not different colors.
Right. I don't know what the heck we were seeing.
Right.
She was seeing the same thing I was seeing. We were sitting on these big boulders. There was a small field, and then we were watching the tree line. We were surrounded by the woods. But we had a small little field sitting on these boulders, and we were both observing. And I'm like, "Are you seeing this?" And she said, "Yeah." And from her, she said it's Bigfoot. It's Bigfoot producing or something to do with his energy. Now, that was her belief and her theory, but I did not knock that. I did not rule that out because, even though ever since I've been involved, I've been very objective. I'm not going to rule that out because I can't say that's not true. I don't know. There's something that people believe. There's a reason why people believe this. I don't know. I have yet to understand that.
Right.
So I didn't want to rule that out. So I'm thinking like, okay, this is something I've never seen before. Now we've seen these on a few occasions in this particular area. Um, long story short, let me jump ahead. A few months later from that time, I want to say it was around May. It was in May, and I was with a different group of people. We were actually camping in a different state forest up there. And one particular night, while we were at camp, I just so happened to walk away from the rest of us. And I'm standing there by where you drive in to where the campsite was. I'm looking across on the opposite side into all the trees. And all of a sudden, I'm looking at something. I'm like, what the heck is that? There was about at least four of them. And some
Yeah.
of them were a little bit bigger than a softball. Some of them were a little smaller. They weren't in a straight line. They were kind of like zigzag, up and down, spread apart. And what I saw, they weren't moving. They were stationary. But they were like bluish, dim-looking round balls of light. And I'm like, what the heck is that? And I mean, they were there for a while. They weren't going away. I ended up walking away for a while. Then I came back. I couldn't see them no more. But while I was there, they stayed there for a good while. They didn't just like up and disappear. Not at least not while I was there observing them. But I'll never forget that. So between that first situation with glittering what it looked like a bunch of different glittering stars in the forest with different colors, and then seeing these round balls of light,
Yeah.
I didn't know how to explain that. I don't know what I saw. Were they orbs? Maybe yes and no, but I can't say for sure. But
Well, the thing of it is, you have to. You can't just look at today. What happens today? I mean, you got to go back and look at history too. Look
yes,
what's transpired over time. William Nighthawk, who is in the chat right now, a very good friend of ours. Huh?
He's leaving the chat.
That's fine. Yeah, he's gonna have a podcast here shortly. Um, William brings a lot of Native American
Exactly.
information into this stuff too, and shares a lot of information. During our last camp out, he came up with the idea. What's the last camp out? The one before? I can't
It
remember.
was the last camp out.
The last one we
It
did.
was in September.
After we talked about the experiences we had, he gave us an idea on what to do. My mind's open to anything because we're looking for answers. Because I'm not going to rule nothing out. And I'll let Melissa tell you about what she did based on what the input William gave her right quick, and I'll be right back. Let's see what's going
Okay.
on.
Yeah. William, as he put into the group chat, he said that it was an elemental spirit energy orb. That's what Daniel and David were seeing. And he advised us and wanted us to take a red ribbon and a feather, a bird feather, obviously bird feather, and to hang it up in a tree. And that's what we did. It was to appease the elementals and kind of like a gift
Mhm.
to where it would appease them and make them happy, and they would hopefully settle down a little bit during the remainder of our camping outing there. But yeah, because William, he says that elemental spirit energy orbs transfer in and out of this world, and Bigfoot, Dogman, they are attached to the elemental powers and energy. That's why we natives call upon them. And he says also he's been trying to teach us the difference between flesh and bone to supernatural, but I do believe there is precedence to it that it is that it has to do with the elementals, and that's
Possibility.
probably possibility. That's why the orb, it didn't have a reflection like a normal flashlight would, and why it was there glowing and then it's gone. It just pops in and out.
Yeah.
But
No,
yeah,
there's a lot of talk on the woo, and you got like the two sides. You got the flesh and blood and the woo. And I tell you, like I said, 3-4 years ago, I was in the flesh and blood camp, and now, having experienced it and been with other experiencers of this woo type of thing, why do I only have 6 casts? Why didn't this 9-foot 4-foot wide creature leave me more than two casts?
Mhm.
Why isn't there a dozen tracks? You know, why do these tracks disappear from nothing, you know, from something to nothing? Why do they just disappear? Something happened to that track. So if it's flesh and blood, right?
Mhm.
It's going to leave tracks all the way until it don't leave tracks. You know, it's got on something hard, and it's now not able to leave a track. But if you're, you know, some like this here was in soft pine duff. It's called duff. You know, soft substrate in the woods. You go out and you make, you know, it's super soft. So, you know, why wouldn't it leave more tracks? So potentially, is it supernatural, paranormal? A little bit of both. The ability to, you know, maybe when Eric saw this thing and it made eye contact with Eric, it just kind of freaked out. And that holy shit moment, maybe that moment, that split moment is energy, and he's able to make, you know, poof, you know, come in or out or do whatever he needs to do. But it certainly only left two tracks, and it's 9 feet tall and as big as a sheet of plywood. And there was no reason, the substrate didn't change. There's no reason why it shouldn't have left more sign, but it didn't.
Yeah.
Be it a broken limb, a stick, or nothing, you know,
Yeah.
or another, you know, maybe you got a 20-foot jump. Nothing. We checked. I checked. Boy,
Yeah.
did I check. And there
Well,
was
the way things the way things happen, I mean, you're for a lot of people, your mind's going to shift, your thinking is going to shift over time with based on how things transpire with your experience. And if I'm not misreading Daniel, I know when we met him about 5 years ago or so for the first time, and he invited us camp, and that's how we get his mind at that time. I think I was reading him right, pretty much strictly on the cryptid side of the field. Okay, strictly cryptid. But the more we got to camping with him and stuff as a group and whatnot being out, and then when things start to happen, I seen that shift in his mentality towards there could be more to it. Unless I didn't get that impression from him when I first met him, okay? But now there could be something more to it the more we experience to where it's just raising more questions that we can't answer, but we're going to be trying to find answers if we can.
yeah.
I don't know if I'm off base with Daniel's train of thought, but we got with him for the Bigfoot aspect to get out there and do research. And then now this stuff is happening. Now he's talking about it more now than what he did in the past.
David, no, you're right on. I mean, I just because, like I said, you know, you hear stories from other people, you learn
Mhm.
things from hearing things over the years from different sources, and this is what they experienced and this and that. So, you know, and the funny thing is, like, I grew up in the woods, basically. You know, I mean, before we moved down to Virginia, even growing up in Virginia, I mean, I was 11 years old when we moved to Virginia from out of Massachusetts. But, you know, Dad always took me hunting. Dad was a big time hunter. He knew the woods. You know, he knew wildlife like I learned over the years. And you know, ever since I was a young kid, I never experienced anything other than what was out there.
Mhm.
As far as wildlife in general.
The norm.
And then getting
Yeah.
involved with the whole Bigfoot phenomenon, I started off being the flesh and blood. You know, I still am. Don't get me wrong, I still am.
Yeah.
But there's something else going on here. Do I want to step into the paranormal side of things? Yes, but I need to see a little bit more. I need to know more. I need to
He
learn
has no
more.
choice but to step into it now.
Right.
He has
My
no
brother,
choice.
my
There's a lot
brother
of
is
there's a
my
lot of
brother is
unexplained
saying,
occurrences. So yeah, I mean, yeah. So as David will tell you, 'cause, like I'll throw this out there real quick. I didn't bring this up to too many people, but David, maybe a couple other people. But during our last camp out, it was I want to say it was our last night there. It was me, David, and Melissa. We were sitting around the fire. Everyone else had gone the day before or earlier that day to go home for after the long week.
No, it was just me and you. She'd already gone to the tent.
Oh, okay. I couldn't remember. I thought she was still sitting there. So,
No,
but
it's just me
well,
and
a
you.
couple interesting things happened during it.
Because Luna wasn't there either. Because when she went to the tent to go to bed, she took her dog to the tent too. It's just me and you sitting there.
Oh, okay.
Ever
Well,
talk about that thing running?
we had that was definitely deer. On the other side of that
Yeah,
stream,
I'm not disputing that, but we're by ourselves when that happened. And when
right?
you had that,
Well, what was interesting I keep thinking about that. What spooked that deer over there?
Yeah.
I didn't pick that. We shined our lights and everything over there. Didn't see nothing. Something spooked that deer that make it, snort and blow and run. But other than that, we were sitting there around the campfire. Now, I never said that to David that night. I mentioned it to him the next day. But we're sitting there, and no, I like I said, I didn't say nothing then because Melissa was there during this time. You guys were sitting
Okay.
there on the opposite side of the fire facing me, and I'm sitting there. I had my hoodie on, my Bigfoot Virginia hoodie on that I wear. I wear that quite often. I have a couple different hoodies, but I wear that one a lot. But we're sitting there, it's dead quiet. We're relaxed. I'm kind of slouched in my chair, and during that time, it felt like somebody reached their hand, maybe with their finger and their thumb, and just grabbed the back of my hoodie and tugged it like 2 times. And I was like, I never turned around during that instant. I was trying to process what the heck, you know.
Yeah.
And prior to that, now let me back up a little bit. The group of us were there. We've had other things. We played around. During the daytime, I picked up some readings with my what do you call the EMF readers?
Yep.
And then at nighttime, we've had one of my cat balls, which they're called cat balls. Some people know them as ghost balls. We had to set up a good 15 feet over by the wood pile while we're all sitting around the campfire. I think Melissa was the first time that noticed it. She's like, hey, one of the lights are flashing over there. We're like, what the hell? We're like, holy shit. We were sitting there. There was no wind. It was dead quiet. Nothing. Those things got to be moving to get set off. But I believe Melissa was the first one to notice it. We didn't have no cameras on it. We didn't know. But, okay, the next day we tried to prepare for it. To make sure it happened, just in case it happened again.
Mm-hmm.
I had one of my cameras sitting on it, which never happened on it. But I had my camcorder set up on my chair or set up over there somewhere, but we were still around the fire. All of a sudden, it went off again the next day. Wasn't expecting it, but it went off again. But I had time. It stayed going off long enough for me to grab my camcorder, turn it on, and start recording and walking up to it. Now, we captured that. That's on one of our latest episodes that we have on for Bigfoot Explorers. So this time we were able to capture the light going off. It should have gone off after 10 seconds or so, but it stayed going. I don't know. Something had it going off for a long time.
We've had batteries go dead,
Yeah.
and we've had, we believe, juvenile Sasquatch involved with that episode. And we had with 2 casts on that. That was in Labor Day of 22. But the batteries going dead with the Bigfoots involved is kind of common. We've all probably heard that, but more so in the paranormal too. I have never heard of them coming back. Like they go dead. Usually, I hadn't found it, but it hadn't happened to me too many times. The time it did happen, we literally took packaged brand new batteries out, and they were brand new. I would assume they're recent, not old, but you go to the store, you buy them, it should be fairly decent. Throw them in the pack and go out there, and we put in the recorder, and we go off. We're walking through and come back. We actually got we say we got pushed out, but what it was we were just getting rocks thrown at us and sticks thrown at us, and they weren't big. They were more they were smaller, and they were like taps, not wood knocks.
Right.
So we really had this feel that they were juveniles messing with us. That's what we were actually talking about. But one rock actually came pretty close to us, and we decided, we probably ought to take off. And we went back, and that's when we put the recorder batteries in it, and we ended up coming back the next, hour or so, and sure enough, they're deader than doornail. And they were brand new batteries, so it happens, My buddies up there in the Bridgewater Triangle, Wojo and Richie B, with their podcast. You guys were talking about lights in different colors. Just the other night, I was watching on their podcast, and they do a live squatching. They're out in the middle of nowhere. And
I watched some of their stuff. Yeah.
So he's got something over there with these lights, and it's almost plasma based looking, with the fluctuations and
Mhm.
movement to it, and the colors, and it's kind of rainbowy color, not like red, yellow, green or anything, but it's like oil sheen, that
Okay.
kind of rainbow, where it's like plasma almost like, and it moves. It's and there's different ones. I mean, they pop up and they disappear and they get big and they get bright and they dim. And so I don't know about the whole light thing out there, but it's something with his podcast. You watch it. He's got something going on with lights over there.
Now,
And he believes that there's Bigfoot's involved and the whole thing going. He's got tracks and all that stuff.
yeah.
The
Just
other was the go ahead.
oh no, I was just gonna ask. Just curious, how far is he from you guys?
Richie's up in I think he's like 3 hours away. He's clear
Oh,
across the state. I'm
oh,
way
so
over here in
he's like
Western
more.
Mass. Yeah,
Oh,
he's
you're
up.
Western, he's Eastern. Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha. Okay, I was just
he's
curious.
in. He's actually part of the Bridgewater Triangle up
Mhm.
on the East Coast, and we are right near the Appalachian Trail on the western end of the.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah, because he's not far from Providence and all that. In the southern. Yeah. Okay. Bedford and New Bedford.
Yeah, out
Massachusetts.
that way. He's
Yeah.
kind of
Okay.
near cities, but he's got plenty of woods where he's at. There's I think the Concord River maybe goes
Hmm.
through there. One of the
Yeah.
rivers go through there. There's a power line that he utilizes, and there's he's got property that butts some sort of sanctuary property.
Right.
He's definitely got stuff going on. Daniel, you were mentioning state forest. I was with Craig Paulson.
Yeah. Craig's the one that
Craig
his
Paulson,
wife had.
Craig and
Yeah.
Cheryl, yeah.
Yeah,
Him
Craig
and
and Cheryl.
yeah. Him and his wife
It's
the
his
one
wife
they came
Cheryl
with
that
us.
had that Bigfoot encounter that she told us about. Thought was a bear.
Yep, down here in Virginia.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, he invited me last September. I was with Craig.
Yeah, he
Me and
wanted
my
me to come
wife
up.
went down.
Yeah, I couldn't make it, but he wanted me to come up. So he's doing it again this year.
Yeah,
I have to play it by ear because I'm not sure what's going on this year. But we'll see
yeah,
how things
that's
play out.
good.
Yeah.
But we're down there, and I won't give his spot away. It's a nice spot. It's a forest, and just like you, similar to what we did. A couple of the people in the group had got up, left the campfire, and they walked out towards the road. From this general parking area and it's you're way the heck out in Nowheresville anyway. So, I mean, when I say the parking area, it's not like there's a town or a local store or a street near it or anything. You're out in the boonies, but there happens to be a parking lot and a state road going through the park. And they end up on the road, and they're up there for doing their thing, and we didn't really miss them or anything. They were doing their thing, and one of them comes back to say, "You got to check this out. There's some lights in the woods." I'm like, okay. So I grabbed my wife and I said, "Hey, come on, you gotta go check this out." First off, she wasn't a real big believer. We ended up seeing a white one. We ended up seeing one in 23, but that kind of put it over the top for us. Now she's in our camp. She believes, and so this time we walked up to the road with this group, and sure enough, um, I'm not going to drop a bunch of names, but there's a number of people with us, and there's 6 people or so, and we're all standing there looking into the woods, very similar to what you were doing. From the road, we're in the road looking across the street into the woods, and sure enough, there's 8 or 9 sets of eyes, what looks to be eyes at all different levels. A couple up here, a number of them down low, but they were moving, and a couple of them changed to green. They got dim, they got bright. Some went on and off, for lack of better terms. They disappeared or went on and off. A couple of them blinked, changed color, red, green, and then another one was white. And then we started walking, and the more we talked to the lights, acknowledging them and recognizing them, they got brighter. And then we'd quiet and walk up, they get dimmer. So there was definitely, we feel there was some sort of a reaction to our talking to it, because it actually followed it, meaning whatever pod or group that section of lights were, the whole thing moved with us. It went up the street, and followed us back to our campsite. We went back to our campsite, and they ended up doing their thing and disappeared, and that was the extent of it. But there was, I don't know, at any given time, maybe 6 different sets of eyes potentially. And I learned a new term from eye shine, because it really wasn't eye shine. Eye shine is if I bring up a light, if I supply the light and I hit you in the eyes or a deer and you get that reflection, you're going to get a reflection or eye shine. This was more of eye glow. This was emitting its own light. There was no flashlights going in the woods. We were sitting there purposely not doing anything, being as quiet or dark as we could. And this was its own light projecting out to us. We didn't have to do anything. This was so, and again, it wasn't like flashlights or any of that. It was just like almost like a reflector with no beam or anything. But it wasn't a reflector. You know how the body of a reflector would shine.
You didn't have a full moon or anything like that.
No.
Where they reflect off of? Okay.
No, and in fact, the group that we were with, her husband and her and a couple other people walked that section of woods during the day before, and there was nothing in there. So, and there was like no fence line with potential reflectors, some sort of nothing. It's just the trees and woods, and it was kind of uneventful, except for those lights showed up at that pot, and they showed up. I remember there was like I thought it was a wood knock. No, it seemed like no one else heard it. A couple people said, yeah, we heard it, but they weren't really sure what they heard. I thought I heard a wood knock. It sounded like that to me, but they didn't pick up on it, so I blew it off. The other 3 people that got up and walked that wood line the day before, they got up and they walked in the woods. They saw the subtle lights. So my wife and I got up and we checked it out, and sure enough, so we got to be able to see and witness this eye glow, whatever was coming from the woods, and whatever was out there was following us up the road and came back to where our driveway was, back to the campsites. And it stayed off in the woods. It never really came towards us, never went back, but it was on, off, up, down. There was movement. It was clearly movement. And we were kind of blown away, blown away.
There's a question on live chat. So, what do you think the eye shine were? I mean, I was wondering, could have been deer, or is that a possibility of deer?
Well, I would have loved to have thought that, but I think you deer, you're going to get a bunch of orange or yellow eyes. These went green, red, white.
Oh wow!
And they went from like being low to tall. So it would have been like a deer going down low and then getting way up, maybe standing up. It just seems like that would be over guessing.
Yeah,
but again, deer eyes, you got to have a light. It's got to have a light source for it to reflect back. It's just not going to glow.
They emitted their own light. Yeah, they emitted their own light.
And you didn't have a full moon or nothing for that to happen.
And they were in the woods. It was a good canopy. It's a pine canopy. So even if it was sheltered or scattered moonlight coming through, at best, if that, because it was a deep pine canopy. So you're not going to get a light back in there too much anyway.
So it wasn't deer then? Nope.
No, I don't believe it was deer. I honestly don't. I want to say because of the way they had talked and the history of the area, that we experienced possibly a Bigfoot clan, a family, something. I really don't know. I don't know. All I could tell you is that we saw
what you saw. Eyeball
lights looking things in the woods, and they followed us around for a bit, and never made noises. They weren't noisy when they were walking through the woods or anything.
By chance, did you notice any blinking? Like how we blink our eyes? Did you notice anything like that?
Yeah. At this point, Craig was still at the trailer. I don't think he had left his. I don't think he had come with us, but the other folks that were there, they could certainly verify it all. Yeah.
What I find interesting is seeing the different color eye shine. You mentioned red was one of them, and these are based off of natural glowing reflections. Now, I mean, I've never seen. Well, the only time I've ever seen red out in the forest is basically off of the light reflection of either of a headlamp or on my vehicle lights, the lights from my
Right.
vehicle. And the only species of an animal I've ever seen with red reflection, not eye glow like you're talking about, was a bear.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you guys are seeing these without using any other kind of light, so that's
And
interesting.
they went from red to green. The red
Right,
ones went red to green, and the rest were white, and they would go to green. Not all of them changed, but there was a variety of colors at any given time, at any given height, because it changed. It was
right.
there was a lot of movement to it. I don't really know how to explain that movement. All I can tell you is from the yardage we were back, you get lights pop on and it'd be over here. And it wasn't like headlamps. There was no light shine like that. It wasn't, I've got 15 freaking headlamps, dude. I know what a headlamp is.
Right,
It's
right.
it's I'm in a camp. I got headlamps all over the place. So it was not that. This was some of them blinked.
Yeah. Have you
Blinked.
ever seen any eye shine that looked a bright yellow looking eye shine?
Just in the woods here,
Yeah.
but it could have been any little critter. It was nothing definitive.
Yeah.
I don't know what each critter has for that
Yeah. Usually,
particular.
I know. Besides raccoons, they startled me numerous times. Where, especially if you're close to one, and all of a sudden you turn around and see like these bright yellow looking eye shine looking at you, and realize,
Yeah,
oh, it's just a raccoon. But then
yeah,
again, when you see, like, I don't know, if people have their theories on the reflection or colors of Bigfoot, but I'll mention it real quick. During my 2014 encounter with I, myself, and five others, we've all experienced seeing the same color eye shine and what we believe to be a family unit. They all had the same color eye shine based off the reflection of the lights we had. And they were all very large, bright yellow looking eyes. But at the same time, the only other species of animal I've ever experienced that had yellow eye shine off a
right.
reflection of light was a raccoon. And I'll say it again. I've been startled by raccoons, especially looking down in the ditch line, and you're like,
Yeah,
"Whoa, shit!" You know?
but even your biggest raccoon's going to have an eye separation of about that far.
Yeah, right. So yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of critters at nighttime, but like bears in general, based off of reflection of light, every bear I've ever seen at nighttime had the red eye color reflection. Again, off of reflection of light. It's all part of that lucidum tatum. The reflection of that. For those who do
Yeah, a
have that
little
the night, yeah.
cone. Yeah, yeah.
But
No, I just
with
don't know what
humans,
all the particular colors are through which
yeah,
units have
and
which.
it it also varies on the type of light you're using too. That plays a key role in a lot of things too.
Yeah,
If you're seeing these eye shines
spectrums.
off of the light reflection,
Yeah,
yeah, eye shine, yeah, the type of light, plays a big key role. But so
yeah. No, we had actually discussed, maybe it was porcupines or possums or something like that, and if that was the case, that was the case. But they go up and down a tree, they wouldn't follow, and then it just and blink and change colors and just the eyes, the size from where we were to the size of the eye that we were looking at or the light we were looking at. A raccoon's eye is as big as your thumb, what
mhm.
you're looking at,
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe a little bit bigger. Um, and it's, when you're looking at this Bigfoot or potential Bigfoot, these things are, they're spaced far apart and you can actually blink,
yeah, yeah.
and it changed color. I, 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 I would love to say it was Bigfoot, but I can't, I don't
Right.
know what it was, but it was certainly interesting. And the group I was with certainly thought it was interesting. And given
Yeah.
the history of where we were, they seemed to think that that's what it was. And we pulled a track. I didn't say we. One of the ladies there uh, casted a track. We were down by a pond, a lake, actually a reservoir, and right in the mud. You could see a trackway pretty good in the mud. And she casted some pretty good. I think she took one cast, but there was numerous tracks that we photographed and measured and stuff like that. But she had casted one track anyway, and it was a fairly decent track. Toes and detail and stuff like that. It was squished right into the mud. So she got a solid. Yeah, it was a good one. Good track. So that was in Pennsylvania, and that was the weird eye shine or the eye glow. That's the term I use now, simply because I didn't use a flashlight. We didn't use a flashlight, and it was definitely not afraid to show itself,
Right.
whatever it was or whatever they were. It's cool though. That was
Yeah,
in
that's
Pennsylvania.
one. Yeah, that's one thing. As far as seeing eye shine without any using any other light source, I
Yeah,
can't say I personally. I mean, speaking for myself,
that was my
I have.
first time.
Yeah, I have yet to experience seeing eye shine without using any kind of light source.
Yep.
That's interesting. I mean,
That's what
I don't
sold me
know.
on it. That's why when you can make me sit there and spin my wheels here. If I can't
Yeah,
rationalize it, I'm a pretty pragmatic guy. 2 and 2 equals 4 all the time,
Mhm.
you
right.
know. And this just didn't make sense. These things were out there, and they were blinking and changing color, and we're watching it. And as we
Very.
talked, it got brighter, it got dimmer. It was a very cool interaction.
Yeah. What
What
about you, David? You guys ever experienced or ever seen anything, any kind of eye shine without using a light source?
No, I primarily walk around without a flashlight on at nighttime, but I have not seen any eye glow or anything like that per se yet. Nothing that I've noticed other than one light that we've seen that one night.
Right, right.
Uh, I mean,
Yeah, it was the first
we're
time I
looking.
had seen
I
it.
mean, I haven't had that opportunity yet, but we're out there trying.
Yeah, contact Craig. He'll tell you all about it. He'll
Hmm.
tell you all about it. It was a good, pretty good. We had Knox and some of the other groups that were there. They were there. The couple people were there a couple days prior to my wife and I getting there, so they were doing some squatching a number of days already, and they had Knox and things like that. So they believe that they are in a good area, and it's out in God's country. It's way out there, so it's very, very, very possible. No reason why it wouldn't. Why wouldn't be there? So for us up here in the New England, they say, does it migrate? Is it hide out like a bear? Hibernation. What do they do in the winter? Why don't we get more tracks? Why don't we get more? Our busy time, and all the researching and contacts I've ever had, our busiest times is late spring to snow flying. So
Right,
probably December, January, and that's it. And then
right,
everything drops off. So they either go to Florida to spring break, or they come back here and they don't migrate per se. I think they're a lot like our bears, our black bears up here. Right now, it's cold as heck. It's 5 below. They're probably denning up, and they'll spend a week, 2 weeks denned up, and they can wake up, run around for 3
Yep,
days.
same way here in Virginia
One
too.
day, if it's sunny, if there's opportunity, they're opportunists. They don't
yeah,
necessarily have to sleep like we typically think hibernate.
right.
Um,
Exactly.
I think the ones that are going to drop babies, they're in a hibernative state because of their gestational frame, what they're going through. I don't think they're getting up running around doing anything. I think they're going to have their babies and maintain it like they normally do. And then the ones that aren't, I believe they can get up, come and go as they please. And if there's, if it's not a lot of snow on the ground and there's opportunity out there, they'll go get it. It could be farm silage bin in a farm or something. Could be anything. Whatever's out there, they're going to grab because they are opportunists. So I believe that they kind of hibernate up here in the
Yeah,
winter. And I use the black bear in that regard for my example. It may not be cookie cutter perfect, but I think that's what it may do. I don't. Uh, I think they don't run around chasing a lot of deer, and you hear a lot of these groups talk about they run around killing deer. Ernie Davro saw them killing deer and eating it. Not eating it, but killing it. So I know they kill deer. I'm not going to argue that fact. I think if I could kill a deer and get it, I would take it too. I believe they're more omnivore, opportunistic,
right.
herb.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
agree.
Everything from a trash bag to a blueberry plush. and everything in between. So when these things here, we get reports that they've seen them in a dumpster, they've seen them over here, they've seen them here. A lot of times there's food involved. There's in these city things that we were investigating, they seen these Bigfoot in a cheese dumpster, what they call a cheese dumpster. There's a factory used to throw the cheese in there, and there's Bigfoot in there. I don't know, just different stuff, I guess. That's all.
Right.
Black in color. The Bigfoots I've seen were black. My wife and I had seen a white one in Cobble Mountain Reservoir. And that was the one we had seen in 23. It's kind of what brought her over onto the dark side. She actually saw it. She saw the Cobble Mountain Reservoir in the summer. It went down to a drought. So you go from a tree line to a shoreline. It's probably 70 yards to make the water line. She saw it come out of the trees and walk down to start to come down. That's when she said, "Hey, what's that?" And I look over, and there's this white thing coming out, probably 3/4 of a mile away across the lake, down to the water. And it simply looks to me like it bent over, looks like it got up, and it walked back to the tree line. And the reason why we think it was a Bigfoot is because we never got a profile shot. If I'm a Bigfoot and I walk out of the woods, and this is my profile, right? And it's white, and I come out of the woods and I walk down and I get a drink, and I get up, maybe I turn around, it's still not a wide profile, I'd still walk back in the woods. But if it was a deer or a moose or a bear, it would have gotten its drink, turned around, and walked back to the woods. And you would have had a profile shot. There's no bear or deer that I know of where moose is going to walk 75 yards backwards to the wood line. So whatever it was walked on 2 feet, looks like it got down, drank some water potentially, and turned itself around. And 3/4 of a mile away, I can look across the lake. I got a big picture window. Look, there's a lake in my backyard here. And I can look across the lake. It's 3/4 of a mile away. And I could see people wearing a plaid shirt. I could tell it's a plaid shirt. So this thing here, you could see it. So it was a white, tall object. It bent over, got a drink. You couldn't see detail, but it turned around and walked back to the woods. And so that's why we believe we saw a Bigfoot there, because there was no real profile to it, like a bear or a deer, or there's no body other than, that little turnaround and walk back to the woods. So the most people that I've taken reports from were black to a cinnamon reddish color and white to gray out in the Quabbin area in the center of the state, is Quabbin Reservoir. And there's been a number of gray or white Bigfoot reports. And out here where I am in the Cobble Mountain Reservoir, well, we named our business, the Cobble Mountain Critter, is named after that critter. And, we've seen the black one and we've seen a white one. So, and right here on the property, we've had, hunters see it 2 different times, 2 different hunters. So right on the property, there's Bigfoot and activity, stuff like that.
Right. Yeah. I see David and Melissa, they're dealing with their dog Luna. Luna's probably like, "Why are you ignoring me?" Oh, Luna. Yeah. Don't worry, Luna, you'll be back out with us again soon enough.
Yeah, but this whole flesh and blood and the woo thing, it really, and I know some folks that are really into it, and they do some speaking on it. A number of them have written books on it, things like that. And you listen to them and things that have happened, and people that, we've done a number of library talks, and I would have never put this out there, but this lady said that she saw a Bigfoot and it looked like it was shimmering. Oh. She saw a Bigfoot first, and then it changed from a Bigfoot to a shimmering lights, and she could see the grass parting where it was walking, and it went across the trail and went into the woods, and it was shimmering. We might use that term as cloaking, but This went from Bigfoot to shimmering into the woods, and that's what she reported. This
That's
is a lady in
interesting.
Pittsfield. And I get another one. We're down in Agawam, a whole state away, whole end to end. And this 15-year-old, 16-year-old was with her mom. She came to the show or the talk and wanted to tell us about her shimmering Bigfoot, the lights in this Bigfoot that she believes saw in the woods. And it turned to lights and it walked away. But it went from Bigfoot to shimmering, and then it disappeared. Then I got another one. We got a phone call. Hey, can you come out to Barry, Mass? This is, you know where Barry is? It's out that way. It's out towards Worcester, out that way, center of the state. And
My parents know. They probably know it because, like I said, I was 11 years old when we moved down here to Virginia. So there's some places I'm not familiar with, you know. But
well,
besides
this
where I
dude's
live.
he's out on his back porch. He's got insomnia. There was some medical thing. He couldn't sleep, something like that. And he goes out on the back porch, and this is summertime, I guess. He looks up in the tree and he sees what he thinks is a Bigfoot. He goes back in the house. He kind of blew it off. It could have been a bear, something like that, I think. Gets his camera, come back, takes a picture, goes back in the night, whatever he does. We get a phone call, and he says, you know, we go up there and we do an investigation. We're talking, not so much an investigation. We're just talking about his encounter or his experience and taking notes. And he starts telling me that he watched this thing jump out of a tree as a Bigfoot, cross the trail in front of him. This is a whole nother part of the state. These people have no way of knowing each other. And it was shimmering when it crossed in front of him on the trail, and it went through the woods, and you could see the grass part and the leaves and the branch and the shrubs or whatever. And there it goes, shimmering lights. It's like, what the heck? What are we talking about? 4 or 5 different reports that we've had on this shimmering Bigfoot. Does it go into this cloaking state? I don't know, but I can tell you there's 5 different people that I know of that have seen it, and they have no idea about each other. I don't share the story with them. They come up after the show generally, and they share their stories. We'll go off and do a library talk for 2 hours. We do a 2-hour library talk, and then we'll talk an hour and a half in the parking lot later because they didn't want to talk in the library, so they'll get us out in the parking lot.
Yeah.
And all these stories. Yeah. So different people, different places, and you're getting the shimmering light concept from different people, different age groups. Something is happening with this shimmering light, be it a Bigfoot or not. Energy, cloaking. I don't know what group you want to put it in, but something is happening with this shimmering light.
Right.
And there's another fairly large name that has a very similar experience, wrote a book. What can we say? I mean, it's out there. You can't dismiss this woo thought. To dismiss it would be irresponsible, I believe, because there's so much.
Yeah, I agree.
And then depending on where you're researching and what kind of results you're getting in your research, be it foot tracks or, completely believable that it's flesh and blood, and that's what's going to drive you down that path because that makes sense. Right. And until you have one of these orbs or things happen to you, then it's going to be questions. There's going to be questions, and they're legit questions. They cannot be dismissed. Too many people see this stuff.
Have you had any reports of any infrasound?
Yes. Actually, I think we were a product of it. We were hit with it, I believe. This is 2000, maybe 19. Another expedition. We're right up the road. Sanderson Brook Falls. This is a state park just up the street from me. And it was reports of activity up there. So we went there for our research. And sure enough, we're sitting there and there's a group of us. It was a group that was broken up in different numbers in different areas of the park. And we happen to have a fire road right near a big cliff. And we had our backs against a guardrail. and almost a sheer drop against his guardrail. It was grass, but it was a sheer drop, probably 100 feet down to a waterfall. And that's what you were looking at. It would have been a fire road with a look, a view, and it would have been to a waterfall. And our backs, we were all sitting on this fire road with our backs to this guardrail. And it's real steep coming up. There's a fire road, and then it's really steep going up. So it's just this little switchback or cutout of a road. And so we're literally sitting. I got my elbows on the ground, feet crossed. I'm waiting for Bigfoot, and of course nothing is happening. We're just sitting there shooting a bull. And all of a sudden, it sounds like a rock is rolling down this hill. Now, this is a steep hill, and it sounds like a big rock, and you can hear it rolling down the hill. There's unmistakably a boulder coming down. I couldn't get my feet underneath me fast enough so I could get up and get out of the way. That's how real it was. As soon as I got up, the noise stopped. Stopped deader than done, just done. And that was it. I said, what? And 5 of us got up. We were all sitting on the fire road. All of us heard it. All of us had a physical reaction. We all stood up and looked up the mountain to see this boulder that wasn't there. It wasn't coming down. So it stopped. So we kind of said, well, okay, that was weird. And we just kind of parked it and sat back down on the fire road and blew it off, that was fun. Maybe a rock got loose and it rolled down, hit a tree, and it stopped. Okay, that's kind of what we heard. But we didn't hear it hit a tree or anything like that. We heard it rolling down the hill, and then it just stopped. So, and we didn't hear a thud or anything like that. Just stopped. So we kind of blow it off. We're talking, whatever we're talking about. Next thing you know, it sounds like a sledgehammer being slammed into the ground behind Eric. Eric's back is on a guardrail, and there's a sheer drop behind the guardrail. And it sounded like somebody threw a rock or a ball, something hard, and hit the dirt behind him with impact. And that's what it sounded like. Again, we all got up, a physical reaction to a sound we heard. We got up, we investigated, we look over, we got our flashlights on. If this, with whatever hit this banking, had to leave a mark. It was all grass. It would dent the grass. It would be stuck in the dirt. If it was a log, you'd heard it roll down the hill. It's 100 feet. You'd have heard it roll down the hill. Zero. Nothing. The grass wasn't touched. Nothing was disturbed. But something sounded like it hit the ground with a vengeance. And we believe it was infrasound.
Yeah, that's a question on here, right? Just as you were talking about it, have you ever been zapped or shocked? I know Melissa, in her encounter, she felt it within her body as far as that. And I think that's what that one question might be. Like, you heard a sound, you all felt it, and I'm sure you felt like a vibration from that, from the impact, from what it sounded like. But after that, you felt no other side effects after that transpired, where she felt something for a couple of days afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've heard people talk about that, where they feel sick to their stomach and a lot of different ancillary kind of things like that. But no, we heard it. We all had a physical reaction. We stood up and holy shit. And now we're looking for something that made that noise. And there was nothing there. There was zero there. And something should have been there. And there was nothing. I was with Gene Tewksbury, my brother, Eric, his son, Chris, and another guy, Bobby Jones. And we were on an expedition, and we were all sitting there. We all had the same reaction, and we couldn't explain it.
That's a different take on it. Yeah, that's a different take on what I've heard people say about experience. I have not experienced that yet myself, but she did one night. From what I hear from other people, they've had that sickness and whatnot. They were disoriented, that type of reaction. But that's the first time I heard of everybody feeling like an impact, no after effects, but something transpired to get all of your all's attention at that moment in time. So
we heard that boulder rolling down the hill. And I went back the next day just to follow through. And I went back with my wife. My wife is deaf in one ear and selectively can't hear out of the other. So she's up there and she can't really hear what's going on. She doesn't hear it. And I'm like, all right, let's get out of here. Let's get out of here. On the way out, we hear this thing walking on the side of the mountain. This is a cliffside almost, really, really steep. No one's up there walking easily. And you can hear rock and shale sliding down the hill and stuff like that. So I get my wife and I said, well, let's get back to the truck. I didn't want to be out there with her with this going on. So we got back to the truck. I called my brother. I said, hey, let's go out there. This thing was just escorting us out of the woods. We get up there and we find this tree branch that's twisted multiple times. And it takes a lot to get me interested in tree twists and structures and things like that. So this definitely had a tree twist that went 1.5 times. And you could tell this thing I could hear it up there breaking stuff and, making noise and whatnot. You hear it walking, and you could go up there the next day and see it. But all you saw was like fresh dirt on the side of a hill, slides. You could see step marks, but they were slides. There was no track per se, but there was something there. And you could see the trees that they were, or it was, bending or breaking and stuff. And I took pictures. I got some PowerPoints that we use on our talks about this tree. And it was impressive enough where I don't normally do stuff like this, but I actually took the tree. It was a sapling that was about 2 inches around, and it was twisted, 1.5 times around, and it was just twisted. And it wasn't broke. It wasn't anything. It was twisted.
It was a green tree?
Yes, it was. It was green as hell. It was in June. Green as hell, full bush, full leaves and everything. And this thing was twisted. I dug it out, the roots and all, and I took it home. And when it finally dried, I cut the bottom off, and I cut it so I could mount it on a board. So I've got the tree twist here, but that's the only thing I've ever taken like that.
Yeah, David, if you guys recall Olaf,
his tree twist. He's got a big one.
Yeah,
I think it's probably 3 foot tall.
It's wicked.
About 3 foot tall, about that big around. He takes around to different Bigfoot cons and stuff like that to put out on display, and it's a heck of a sight to see for that.
Yeah.
No, mine's a few inches.
Seeing how something like that would happen.
Yeah.
Well,
we've got moose. Moose will go into an area during a rut, and a big rut. A big moose within the rut will take saplings and just tear stuff up. And you go into an area, if you don't know what you're looking at, you say, "Whoa, look at this." And now you go back 5 years later, 10 years later, and there's saplings 15, 20 feet in the air. You say, "Oh my God, a Bigfoot did that." Well, no, it was a moose 15 years ago tossing saplings, and that's where it ended up, root ball and all. It just pulled up when maybe it was wet that day, and it was a top soil, and it was the roots were shallow, and he just goes in there and just tearing it up, and little inertia, and poof, that thing goes up there. So how's this stuff happen? How's trees get up there 15 feet, 10 feet in the air? I'm just saying stuff like that happens, and it's explained. It's not everything Bigfoot. That's all.
Correct.
But, a lot of this stuff, I can say that because I've experienced it. I've seen it. I've been there prior to it and after it, and so I know what made it. So I can talk from experience when I see it. So when I see stuff, I can try to explain it away in my own head. If people don't know what they're looking at and seeing it for the first time, it's just, holy shit.
There's another question on here real quick, and it brings me to a point I'm going to bring up on this question. I want to know if you ever heard any metallic pounding in the woods. Based on that, I watched another couple on a podcast where they gather reports of people hearing like a metal door slamming. Have you heard of anything like that before, or any kind of metallic pounding? And this is out in the boondocks where they got reports, sounding like a metal door, like if a door closing metal on metal frame, And then
I've never experienced anything like that. As far as noises I would attribute to a Bigfoot, I've heard the wood knocks, I've heard whistles, and whistles from low whistles to just above bird tone to a whistle that sounds like it was in a cop car. We're in Connecticut long story short, we're in Connecticut, and this Catholic group, we were down doing a ropes course. It's high adventure stuff in the woods. You go on belay, you climb trees, and you walk on wires, and you do zip lines and stuff like that. It's a trust course, that kind of confidence building course. we're doing a course up there for the weekend. This church group goes in and do a Bible study, a moment, a couple hours at the top of this mountain. There's only one trail that goes up this mountain. It's owned by a private school, and the mountain is owned by the school. So there's one trail up and there's one trail down. And that's the way they go up and they come down. Now they had just went up. They did a Bible study. They go up top and they're doing their thing. They come down. We're going to have dinner ready for them. Eric and I are cooking. I think we got burgers and chicken or something like that going. And we're going to serve this group, 35 people, dinner. And we do. They come down the bottom of the hill. We're sitting there. We got our camp all set up. People are coming up. They're getting their grub and they're having their dinner. We're all sitting on the picnic table. And next thing you know, we're sitting next to the preacher, Bill. And all of a sudden, this siren starts up like, what? For 5 seconds, as loud, like a police car at its highest tone, as loud as it could go. And that's what it was. And it started off with bam, wicked loud. There was no whoa, nothing. It was just super loud, like a siren, but more of a whistle. But it was that loud. There was no air raid, no volunteer stuff, blah, 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 blah. Nah. This was the top of the mountain, no roads, one path, and that thing. And the thing that got him was, we're just the preacher says, what is that? And I can't help but do a program and talk about Bigfoot. So we're doing a program. I said, Eric says, hey, Tim, what is that? He says, yeah, that's Bigfoot. And he said, what? And all I can attribute that was to a whistle. Really, there's no other explanation for something that loud I've never heard other than like a cop car. That night, that was it. We heard the whistle and it was done. That night we had owls going off. Probably this is March, April. It was April. It was around Easter. So owls may have been breeding territorial somewhere in there. They're breeding around that time, or having their little ones or something like that. So they could be a little more territorial. And when you get owls together, they'll fight. They'll go back and forth, and they'll be pretty loud. And I don't know if you ever heard or witnessed that. When you get them pissed, yeah. they get loud. And it's loud. It's pretty weird, and it's pretty weird if you've never heard it before. Now imagine half a dozen owls going off and it just screaming. It sounds very surreal, very unfamiliar. But anyways, they're going off, and then within minutes of the owls going off, coyotes are going off now, like they're on a kill. This is 8, 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock, about 9 o'clock at night or something like that. And these coyotes start going off like they are on a kill. I don't know if you've ever heard that before, but there's a difference between yipping and yiping and coyotes on a kill. There's a difference, and it's supercharged energy on the kill. And that's what it sounded like. The half a dozen coyotes just going off like crazy. And the owls all at the same time. So it was a weird energy that night. Never saw nothing, never did nothing. The next day, everything that night stops. The next day, Eric and I are breaking down camp. We're getting ready to leave. And where we camp, Eric's in a hammock, and I've got my tent. And there was a big oak tree that had come down, and it had a full canopy still. So it was like a summertime windstorm that put this big tree down. And something was walking on the other side. I said, Eric, you see that or you hear that? He says, yeah. We kind of thought it was a deer. We're leaving. We're blowing it off. Next thing you know, this rock comes flying through the tree, and you can hear it bit, 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 bit. Coming through, hitting the branches, and it lands 15, 20 feet from Eric, and it's as big as a candlepin bowling ball. And it came through the trees. So, yeah. But, that's the only noises. The question was metallic noises. I heard claps. I think I heard rock clacks, maybe. And that wood knocks. That's it. I've never heard the metallic stuff like that.
Yeah, I think some of the reports on the metallic sounds, I could be mistaken. There was a comment on here just a moment ago that someone heard metallic sounds in the LBL. You've heard of the LBL, land between the lakes?
Oh yeah,
in
oh yeah.
Kentucky. Yeah. It's
No, I've never experienced anything like this metallic sound.
I haven't either, but it's something else that I'm going to start listening for while we're out and about. It's another thing to
Oh yeah, I
listen
imagine
for.
you'll notice it if you
Keep
hear
in
it.
mind, yeah.
One podcast, I don't know if you ever watch Hellbent Holler podcast. It's a man, it's a
Hellbent
Oh
man
Holler.
and
yeah,
wife.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah, they go to the LBL a lot. I think they're
yeah,
from North Carolina
yeah.
originally. That's where they're
That's
from.
a guy and a girl.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess
Yeah.
he's got coal black hair and stuff, and pretty girl.
Yeah, Hellbent
And yeah,
Holler.
he's got like a goatee type thing. But anyway,
Yeah.
that's where I first heard of it was on their podcast. They have been getting reports from it. They actually experienced it. Now, if I'm mistaken, I think it was in the LBL too.
And this
But
is
they've
one,
been gathering more reports on that. So something else I'm just bringing up. Curious if you've heard it. I've never heard of hearing metallic sounds in the woods before, but now that I've been exposed to it, it's something else to try to listen for when you're out there.
yeah, that would kind of freak me out in the
Yeah.
middle of nowhere hearing that. You know, what's metallic out in the middle of
Yeah.
the woods?
Yeah.
That would
Yeah,
really
That's interesting.
raise your hairs for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I work with a guy who's related to the individuals that David was bringing up. I can't remember their names for nothing.
Oh, the podcast group.
Well, yeah, the people that investigate that, the guy, it's
Yeah.
the husband and wife team that do that.
Hellbent Holler. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's the podcast channel. Yeah.
Yeah, I forget their personal names, but yeah, I know a guy I work with. He works right next to me where I work. He's like, "Hey, do you know these? Do you know so and so?" I said, "Wait a minute, show me the picture." And the name rang a bell. Then he said, "Oh yeah. I knew them. Yeah, they do a lot of shows and podcasts and blah blah blah." Yeah, I never met them, but I know of them. But
Well,
yeah, he's
they're
related
not
to
out
marriage.
there watching them. They're not out there. They don't fly off the handle, and everything they hear is Bigfoot and all that. They want answers, and that's what they try
Yeah.
to go get and stuff like that. So they keep everything grounded, down to earth, and come up with other possibilities at the same time to try to rule things out to try to get to an answer themselves. Unlike some others, everything they hear and see is a Bigfoot or ghost or whatever, or whatnot. But you got to pick and choose. You got to listen to what they're saying and take it for what it's worth.
Yeah,
Anything,
yeah.
anything.
I agree.
Yeah.
Jesse and Joe. Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Just like the TV shows and everything on TV nowadays, ghost hunting and Bigfoot shows. I watch them. I like watching them. It gives me ideas of what we could do out in the field. But
Yeah,
a lot of it's entertainment. I mean,
it's
why
all
would people
entertainment.
go out and do some ghost hunting, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden they experience something, then they all go running from it? That
You
kills
remember, if it's coming through the tube, it's all entertainment.
them. Exactly.
It's
And
all
I get
entertainment.
ideas and stuff
And
like
there's
that.
great quality people doing that entertainment
Oh, yeah.
with serious backgrounds
Yep.
and serious agendas. But there's
Network.
entertainment.
Yeah, network behind it.
When the guys in some of these shows are out there running the disco balls and different stuff, we might think it's all far fetched, right? But it's
Yeah.
a lot of us at the same time we'll say, hey, that's crazy. But at the same time, we'll say Bigfoot is curious.
Yeah. Exactly. Yep.
And so this might just inspire that interaction.
Exactly.
So as far-fetched
You never
as
know.
it is, yeah, yes, it's entertainment, and there's research behind the entertainment.
Exactly.
Because I know some of the guys that were doing that stuff, and
Yeah.
they're good guys. They're good guys, but there's
Well,
entertainment involved.
Like
David-
Russell, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say. So get on Amazon and get us the disco ball for May.
Hey, from
I just bought a radiation detector. You can get the disco ball.
Well, I'll see what
But
tax
what-
money looks like when I get my tax money back.
Russell, I think Expedition Bigfoot or whatever it is.
Russell Accords.
See, I like
Yeah.
getting ideas from him and stuff because one night he had on there. I know entertainment's behind it, but he came up with an idea where people think that Bigfoot might be able to see infrared lights
Yeah.
and stuff. So he set up a
cameras
cam,
and yeah, I
but he
believe. Well,
triggered the cam with vegetation. That way, something would have to trigger that to drop the vegetation before it would actually do it. The cam needed to do what it needed to do.
right. Yeah, yeah.
I get ideas from stuff like that.
I actually like that. That's kind of
Yeah.
It's kind of basic mechanics there. I get
Exactly.
what you're saying there.
Yeah.
That kind of makes sense if you could
Yeah.
do it.
But
Now,
that's
if
why
they,
I like
if,
no glow.
yeah, no, a lot of
like
people say
cameras
that.
that are no glow myself. Yeah.
A lot of people say that they can see the infrared and we're all wasting our time. And there's a lot of guys I know that have a lot of money invested in cameras.
Oh yeah.
And they're not a waste of time.
No.
We're really, with the cameras, you just need to get the dumb one. Or maybe he's walking with his brother Bigfoot and he pushes him, and you just need that. You just got to get him on camera. Doesn't matter how he gets there,
Exactly.
But there's a hunting product called Hex, HECS, Hex, and it makes you disappear in your electrical output. It minimizes your input. It's like wearing a Faraday cage, and they use if you go to hex.com. They'll show you this outfit that you can wear, and basically it's taking that infrared look or that picture away from that animal and it's blocking it. So it's like putting a mylar blanket over in front of you so a heat-seeking device or infrared device can't see through it. That kind of stuff. It blocks it a little bit. That kind of stuff. I don't know. It's there may be something to it.
You never know. Everything is game when it comes to research. Everything.
And people talk about it and people experience it. So there's something with it. There's stuff happening. Is how do we pull it apart and figure it out?
Absolutely.
Daniel.
Hey, I know. I was looking on Amazon on my phone. I was like, I sent them a picture, a screenshot.
Daniel has me spending money all the time because of the ideas wants me to go buy the stuff. And about 3/4 of what I have.
I wasn't saying for you to buy it. I said, hey, for $25, I might pay for that.
No, you sent it to me on text. Come on now.
That's like what our son.
Well, I can tell you it was tried and it didn't prove worthy. So I don't know if it might be proving worthy somewhere else. He's not
only $26.
worth to try.
Well, go ahead, Daniel.
It sounds crazy with some of the shows, but I'll tell you, the shows they loosen the tongues of people. They creates interest. We go to a library and we'll have, depending on the size of the library, I don't want to say sell out, but we'll book out that entire library and we'll be talking. Our thing is let's talk Bigfoot, and we get 30, 40 people. We'll get 60, 70 people, and it's Bigfoot, and it's amazing the people that want to talk about it or the interest in these little communities, and it's like. And they always thank the librarians. Oh, thank you for having us. This is such cool stuff to have in here, and we're kind of the oddballs, but we don't have too much problems captivating the audience with the stories. Everything we talk about is true. It's our personal experiences. We don't have to repeat a lot of different stuff from different people, or we don't talk about history of the Bigfoot. A little bit, but we don't get into all that. We talk about what happened to us. Right. So it's just what happened to us. It's fact. If we're going to say it's coming, then it happened to us. We repeat. Sometimes I'll talk about Ernie Davro, like I heard earlier. Ernie had an experience where he had a 5-foot encounter. He was looking at the palms of this creature's hand. He calls them forest people. He's looking into his eyes. They had blue eyes. He's looking at this thing breathing at him. Go look up Ernie Davro's Bigfoot encounter on Drake Mountain.
I've heard of
it's
encounters.
An incredible story.
Yeah, I've heard of encounters where they talk about blue eyes. I've heard about dark brown eyes, black eyes. I've heard of different ones, but I have heard the blue eyes before. So from other people.
Ernie had. You must be familiar with Sibylla Irwin.
Sounds familiar, yeah.
Sibylla Irwin. She's an artist, and she does a lot of these renditions of Bigfoot.
Oh, yes, I know her. Yeah. Okay.
So that's what I'm talking about. In fact, the year I met you over in Ohio, I think Sibylla was there. She had a booth next to us, I think, and they were doing something over there. But anyways, it's a small world. But Ernie had her doing her. He did this story on their podcast, and then she ended up taking time to draw what he was explaining, and it's a jet black creature. He calls them forest people. Without a doubt, they're forest people. Ernie had drawn up his 12 gauge another 40-yard encounter, unmistakable. You got to listen to this guy's story. Pulls up on it, and this Bigfoot goes like this. He's pointing his shotgun at it, and this Bigfoot looks at him and goes like that.
Wow.
What would you do if I did that, or vice versa? You wouldn't shoot. That thing just did a human thing.
You're like, hey,
Right?
ho, stop. You know?
Right. Without saying the words, without verbalizing, he was doing sign language. Hey, well, chill out. You know, whoa, whoa, that kind of thing. And that's
David does that to me every time I send him something from Amazon.
Slow down, buddy.
You know what I mean? Well, that was Ernie's reaction when he drew up on this forest person, and that's what his reaction was. And I'm not going to go too much further into Ernie's thing, but listen to his story. It's an incredible story, and Ernie believes we should be going when we have an encounter more instead of the holy shit and run. Let's settle down and try to engage it in some fashion. Talk to it. Have a conversation like we're doing. What I learned over the years is if you don't ask, you got an automatic no. Right?
Did you follow that older lady that recently passed, a primatologist? I can't think of her name right off the top of my head, but she pretty much gave credence to the existence of Bigfoot. If you follow her and what she talked about, she said the possibility is always there.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Again, it's all opinions.
Yep.
We all the people that have seen it, we call ourselves knowers. We know it's out there. I don't know if she's actually saw Bigfoot. If she did,
I don't think she has. I think she was just accumulating the data as given, and through her research, her thought process was she was not going to rule it out.
Yeah. You guys talking about Jane Goodall.
Jane Goodall, thank you.
That's her. Yeah, Jane Goodall. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, this previous year. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and evidence based, it's out there. There's plenty of evidence. There's plenty of people. There's plenty of stories. I got a cast on my table. Something made it. This thing is out there. There's way too many stories. It's just way too many stories for it to be fake. Even if it started off as a fake, they try to say, oh, this one's, like the Gimlin-Patterson thing was fake. I highly doubt that. I firmly believe Bob is telling 100% the truth. Yeah. There's no doubt in my mind.
I personally believe that is a real footage. I really believe they captured something. There's some things that got brought up as a red flag, which I'm not gonna lie, which they do seem suspicious. Like the year prior to this whole filming of what they captured, Roger Patterson himself put a book out, and on the cover of his book had a female looking Bigfoot with breasts.
Yeah.
That kind of made things look suspicious for them, but the footage, through all science and all modern technology, they cannot identify that or look at that as anything fake.
Agreed.
Too many factors to look back on that time period alone. Like, hey, Hollywood, Disney. Yeah. They didn't have the technology. The best they had back during that era. Look at Planet of the Apes, which came out in March 28th of 1976. A whole year later, when that was released, that's what the best they had. So come on.
I remember, this is the same thing. It was the early 70s and stuff. Dark Shadows had rubber bats and, elastic strings for special effects. It wasn't much more further than that. But I don't know. I firmly 100% believe in Bob Gimlin's story. He sat across the table from me, told me the story a couple of times, and I 100% believe the guy. There's no doubt in my mind. And even if that didn't happen, and all the other history of the Bigfoots didn't happen, what the hell did I see?
Right.
What did I see?
Not just in North America alone. There's histories that date back long before I mean, let's look at. I mean, Native American folklore. There's so many stories and literature based off of their wall drawings and cave drawings and so much more. Their stories. Not to mention what's being seen across the whole globe. I mean, other continents have their own Bigfoot related subjects. Yeah, they tend to be smaller than what we describe here in North America, but there's something across the whole world that's in different continents. The Urin and the Yeti and so many other different countries and whatnot that have their own legends. There's a truth behind a legend. Where do they originate from? What started them? You know, so I mean, people got to remember and keep that in mind. So
Yeah, no, you're right. It's stuff. Usually, there's a smidgen of truth in that legend, and it starts off. It may be blown out of proportion down the road, but there's
well,
probably a
sure,
smidgen
yeah,
of truth.
absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. I
Well,
agree.
from cryptids to paranormal, things happen that you can't explain, and when you capture things on film, pretty much validates a lot of things. I put on my YouTube channel here where Melissa had her hair pulled here in the house. We caught it on camera, and something pulled her hair twice.
Yeah.
Once in 2024, then here this past October.
Hmm.
And when you get it on camera, there's no there's no dismissing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it actually happened 3 times, but we were
What
only able to capture it twice on camera.
there's a whole different perspective on everything on how it transpires. It just raises more questions from the paranormal to cryptids or whatever. That's why I got an open mind about everything. Anything's possible.
Well,
Anything.
it's a supernatural world. Even if you believe in Jesus and the Bible, Jesus is supernatural. I mean, he's the creator. He made the box. He's outside the box. He doesn't fit in a box, you know. So there's something about the spirit. He's cast down demons in this one and that one, and there's all kinds of spiritual and supernatural stuff and
But
healing, and there's
but
all that stuff that's talked
most
about.
of your skeptics believe in the Bible. Then you turn and ask them, well, if you don't believe in the ghost and spirit, why do you believe in the Bible? If they believe in the
Well,
Bible, they have to know there's another realm to deal with.
well, the truth is they don't believe fully in the Bible and what the Bible explains and
Well, you
describes.
can't pick
Because
and
I mean,
choose.
yeah,
No,
yeah, exactly. Apparently, a lot of these skeptics do because the Bible speaks about a
Mhm.
lot of what people experience today.
They don't want to be taken out of their norm.
yeah.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, it's not cool to be religious and want Jesus as your Lord and Savior. I get that. I don't figure that out. I
Mhm.
I
wouldn't
mean,
go through life like that,
there's
but there's a lot of
there's
people that do.
yeah. I mean, to speak to the Bible real quick. I mean, yeah, people see ghosts and the people see demons. Are these ghosts entities of the past? The people, as the Bible speaks, the devil appears as an angel of light, and that may be simply a ghost spirit of somebody you lost. They appear as what you want them to see. People don't
Yeah.
realize that. So
well, that's a whole different podcast and all that subject there. As far as that, you can go
yeah,
into
right.
UFOs and all that. I mean,
No, I'm just trying to rein it into the supernatural end of things because it's hard to accept over here, but over
yep.
here it's accepted. So it has to, it could be taken together.
Right.
Exactly.
Supernatural. If we're seeing
What
weird stuff, then it's possible because we know weird stuff starts everything. It's
Yeah.
supernatural.
they're releasing another movie in the summer. I can't think of what the name of it is, but this summer they're releasing another movie on the UFO phenomena and all that other stuff. I ain't gonna get into a lot of detail on it, tell a little about it, but scientists are saying the way things have been transpiring here the last few years from Congress talking about the UAPs and UFOs and all that other stuff, the military footage has been coming out that they've been denying that stuff happening over the last decades. They're trying to get people prepared for what they call a soft exposure, reintroduce it a little more and more and more until one day somebody's standing at a podium and say, "People, they're real."
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what they're saying. But I mean, that's a whole different podcast and all that stuff. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
how
But
Now,
yeah,
all that could also be playing into what we're experiencing today too.
yeah.
Just
It's
saying.
funny
I've
you
heard
bring that
people.
up.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's funny that David brings it up because yeah, I think we're always going to relate to the when it comes to UFOs as UFOs, but there's a modern thing they switched up on now. The UAPs, that's more common. What they want us to refer to them as now
Mhm.
is the UAPs is the unidentified anonymous phenomenon instead of unidentified flying objects. So
There ain't no difference. It's
right, there
one.
Yeah,
isn't, but
same pair of
UAP
pants, different pocket.
yeah, the UAP is more of a modern thing that they threw out there. They want us to refer to it as.
Like
Exactly.
changing the name of it's going to make some difference if it does come out to be true or
Okay.
what.
For years, they've denied the existence of UFOs.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's easier for them to come out and say, yes, there's UAPs, but we don't know about UFOs. All of a sudden, they don't use that term anymore. But
Yeah,
they're
I mean, because the
UFOs.
UFO could be a lightly used term nowadays because they're like, hey, we might see an aircraft up in the sky. I mean, it could be one of our technology, one of our
Mhm.
aircrafts, but because we don't know what it is, it's going to be a UFO regardless. But, so,
Or frozen.
Yeah.
you know,
Our
but,
term was unidentified flying object.
right.
Yeah, I
And
think
when
we
you're
just
looking
called
up and this thing is doing zigzags and changing colors and doody doody doo,
Yeah,
it's
that's a
probably a
different.
UFO. Whatever that you're going to call it, a UFO.
I
They
think
like to change the names to lighten it up. Like I'm not even go there, but
I
they
think I
like
said
to
too
change
much.
the
They
names of
froze up
things
my
to make it
screen.
easier and acceptable.
I'll
Hey,
be right back. I'm
Now,
froze up.
yeah,
Hold on a minute.
your video's froze up, but we still hear you very loud and clear, David.
Yeah, I think the government's listening to me. They froze me up. I said too much. I'll be
Yeah.
right back. Hold on a minute.
Oh, he's about. Oh shit, David's about to
There
be
you go.
abducted.
Yeah. Oof, yeah.
Oh my, yeah. We'll wait till he gets back, and we're about to. We'll come to a close here in a little bit here. Uh,
Yeah, no,
hold
the
on.
whole UFO thing, it's out there. We've seen them. They're out there. There's no doubt about it.
There we go.
We don't need the government to tell us that Bigfoot's out there. We don't need the government to tell us there's UFOs.
Yeah,
Plenty of people have seen them.
It's going to be what it's going to be, regardless, as far as
Yeah,
that.
the whole what I just heard somebody was talking about, and it's conspiracy theory, and is all this. They take the cloud seeding and they're just putting all that crap up in the air so that they can show some sort of video like a movie screen on it, and it'll show you the second coming of Christ or something. And who the heck knows? They'll portray something up there and look at it's coming and
yeah.
some weird big to do. I don't know what they're talking about. This soft, what were you calling it? A soft exposure?
Exposure, yeah.
Yeah,
Slowly reintroducing the possibility of
yeah,
there's other life out there besides ours on this planet.
yeah.
That
It's
way to
kind of
get
like an
people in the
early.
mindset to where they're not going to be as shocked. But I'm here to tell you, if they ever do release it, regardless, you're going to have chaos.
Yeah. A
You're
lot
going
of
to have
folks
chaos.
talk about the Bigfoot thing where why don't the government talk about the Bigfoot? Why don't they say it? Well, they I don't know why they don't. That's their thing. In our mind, my mind, I'm looking at the outdoor recreation industry at I don't know, I'll throw a number out there, say $20 billion for an outdoor recreation industry. And today there's a lot more users out there passively than there was a long time ago. Snowmobiles, snowshoes, skiing. It's just a lot more prevalent. A lot more people are doing that and engaging in the outdoors. It's just more people doing it. It's more ways to get out there. And people are doing it. And I think if they were to introduce the thought of Bigfoot, it could potentially take a little bite out of the recreational value, the dollar potential.
I've heard that too, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what they say. It's
That
kind of
is
like
right.
the whole mountain lion thing. And, if they get the mountain lion and they classify a mountain lion, like they say mountain lion lives in Massachusetts, do we have to redesignate wilderness and building codes and land codes in this buffer zone? And, do you have to go through all that whole litigation of what it takes to requirement? What does a mountain lion need for wilderness? I'm in Massachusetts. There's no wilderness. I've got large tracts of land and forest, contiguous sections of forest, but nothing. There's no wilderness out here.
Well,
You
and
know,
you,
not
and
like
you're
you could go up, you could drop state of Massachusetts in Montana, and
yeah,
and it's the size of a state park. You know,
right. I mean, as you're in the western part of the state, I mean, you're borderline, and you're not far from uh, what
New
is it,
York,
New York
New
and
York,
Canada.
Connecticut, and Vermont.
Yeah, and of course, yeah, if you go further up north, yeah. I mean, look, yeah, I've never been in the Maine, or I've never been to Vermont or New Hampshire, but based off of what I've researched and looked up and from other sources, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of, I guess you go, I don't know if you want to call it
It's
wilderness, but there's
woods.
a lot of terrain up there. Yeah, a lot of woods. Yeah.
It's a lot of woods. Back in the there's a cool history. It's called transitional history in New England. And the late 1700s. You remember everything started in New England, right?
Yeah.
Everything comes out of New England, then goes west. At least that's what we were taught. So as they're coming through Massachusetts, they're cutting down everything and going west. You know, everything from cabins to utensils to everything, carts, the buggies, to everything is woods, and it's wood. Shipbuilding, some of these big first generation ships are going back to the king, stuff like that. So uh, Massachusetts goes through this period up to the late 1700s where all of a sudden it's logged off. There's like a few percentages of of forested land in Massachusetts now at this point. Um, and that's when the whole sheep farmers thing comes in, the stone walls come in, and then there's that whole history. And then after the farmers, then there's the, trees grow back. So our forests go back 100, 200 years now, and they're coming up out of old pastures and whatnot. That's what it is. But there was a time when we didn't have any forests, and that's why we lost our moose, the cougars, the mountain lions, whatever else you want. They all
In
went
the wolves.
back
Yeah.
because we took that habitat away. Cows didn't come till later. We had sheep here first, and sheep were our first real industrial. That kind of came out of Mussolini and his war troops out in the Alps in Italy. They had merino wool. That was their sheep, the merino wool. And that gave their troops superior quality gear, garments that they could wear. And it proved better in cold weather temperatures. And apparently we had some ambassador or something over there at that time, and he sent a couple hundred sheep back here to Vermont. And then within 3 years or so, we had over 3 million sheep. So that's where the stone walls came from. Farmers back in the day here, they didn't make stone walls. Farmers plowed fields, they broke the plow tip, they picked the rock up, put it on a sled, and got rid of the rock. They dumped it into a field. And that's so they didn't break the plow tip. They didn't build stone walls, they got rid of the rocks. And then when the sheep came, they needed to be able to put these sheep in pens. So they went back to the stone walls. Why? Because there was no wood. They had already logged it off. There's no wood. So they go back to those stone piles that they've had for almost 100 years at this point, and they go to take those rocks, and they made stone walls out of them. And that became pasture land or hay property or wood lots or that. And there's a whole cool thing on transitional history and reading the forested landscape. There's a guy, Tom Wessels, reading the forested landscape. He's adjunct professor up in Antioch University up in New Hampshire. Explains a lot of this stuff. When you're out in the woods and you're looking for answers, like how does that happen? How does that happen? You're looking at natural formations. A lot of times there's explanations for it. The more you can learn on that, the easier it is for you to explain stuff away and take things out of it. So you might have had a hurricane up here back in 35, and there's no way to tell that you had a hurricane here in 35, except there might be a little root ball and a stump, a little log that it's all rotted now, but you can see the remnants of a stump in a log, maybe a ditch where the root ball was, and you might start to see a series of that, and they're all laying in the right direction, in the same direction. So it would have been a big blow or a hurricane or something like that. But, that's in reading the forested landscape. How does it get that way? It's a really cool trip if you want to learn all that stuff. It's a really fun. For me, knowing all that stuff, when I had our adventure education business back when we were guiding, when I was backpacking and stuff with groups, That became filler conversation while you're walking through the woods. People ask questions. What's this? What's that? What's this? What's that? From edible plants to Indian marker trees, you know. I could show you Indian marker trees that are not Indian marker trees.
Right.
That,
Yeah.
they're 20 years old, and I don't see the tribe out there bending branches or grooming these trees. There's natural occurrences that take place that shape these things, and it'll give you the same results. I'm not saying that they don't or haven't. I'm just saying there's natural results, natural answers for some of these things that you see. That's
I
all.
agree. Absolutely. Same here in
Absolutely.
Virginia. Real quick, I want to, if she's still on here, tagging on and listening, I want to give a shout out and say good night to Linda Sigmund. She's been a steady listener and viewer on this tonight. She's going to bed, so I'm looking forward to meeting up with Linda towards the end of next month, where I'll be staying. She's let me stay at her place. She's got extra rooms, so we're doing actually a library meeting, which I organized just minutes away from where she lives. We're basically holding a town hall gathering, and I'll be doing a presentation at one of the local libraries in her town. And she was gracious enough to offer me to stay at her place, which I'm looking forward to that. So, and I get to film her and interview her, even though I've had her on the podcast here before. I plan on filming her for part of our series and episodes for what we're doing in our projects. So, but yeah, so good night, Linda, and thank you for listening. If you're still on here, it's been a pleasure. So, and then for everyone else that's been on here listening and interacting, you guys are awesome. Shoot, we've been on here for over 2 hours and 42 minutes right now. So,
Yeah, it's easy to talk squatch.
oh yeah, it's been a
Yeah.
great discussion. When we've been on this long, it's been. I agree, it's been a great show. It's
It don't
really,
seem like it's been that long.
I know, right? Um, Before we go on, I'm going to give Tim the last words, but David and Melissa, before I turn to Tim, do you guys have anything you want to share before we call it a night?
Well, the only thing I want to say is right quick is first, it's a pleasure to meet Tim and
Yes.
hopefully get to meet him and his brothers next camp out. But everything that we talk about from our experiences and stuff like that, we've got nothing to lose or gain from it. It's what we experience. We don't fabricate anything. We tell it straight up the way it is and what we experience. So take away from it what you will. And we're going to continue doing our research regardless. Uh, Other than that, I got nothing unless my secretary here has anything.
No, just that when you experience something, you need to rule out what could be the obvious, whether it's other wildlife that's native to your area or what. Don't just go on the assumption that it is, because I know you've heard the clacking of rocks at night. Well, on the last camp out, we heard the clacking of the rocks too, and we finally investigated it. It was a family of raccoons
Yeah,
going after the crawdads.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's one thing.
Yeah, that was
it is
one thing.
okay. That don't mean other things can't be out there.
Yeah.
Picking up a rock for communication and going clack.
Mhm.
But again, that's neither here or there. But again,
Yeah.
Well, with that being said, I will tell you, I recall I was just waking up. It was early in the morning one morning, and for what I heard the clacking of the rocks one early morning while we were camping there. I was like, "There's no way that could have been a freaking raccoon because it was like hard, bang, bang, bang,
Yeah.
clacking." I mean, they have little hands. I mean, yeah, it's one thing if they're pushing stuff over and moving the rocks.
yeah, you hear
But
the little clacks. Yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
but this was
I
like,
get all the recordings out there. Just one big, like it almost sounds like a tree knock, but it had a higher pitch to it, like if two big rocks just went
Yep.
and nothing
yeah,
else.
I
It
heard
wasn't a
like
bunch of little
boom,
things
boom,
rolling
boom.
around and stuff like that, like raccoons. So
Yeah.
I
That could
don't
be
know.
mistaken for that metallic sound. The rock clack.
Oh,
Different
Possibility.
rocks, when you smack them together, have different tones.
Yep.
that's true.
Yep.
I never thought of
Based
that.
on the type of rocks that they are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Good point. I didn't think
Yeah.
about that. See, we're still
Very
learning.
interesting. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
But we ain't got nothing else for that. So pleasure meeting you, Tim.
All
Well,
right.
same here. It
Tim,
was nice to meet you folks.
Jim, yeah, anything you want to share before we jump out of here?
If you're interested in following us, it's you can go to Cobble Mountain Critter Project and see us there on Facebook, the Vogel Brothers on Facebook. There's a website, the Cobble Mountain Critter Project. It's funny because most of our Bigfoot stuff, everything we do that's involved with Bigfoot that we receive money, goes right back into the business, and that goes into youth outdoor education. This year, we're doing a bunch of pine trees. We're giving out maybe 400 to 600 pine trees, kind of like an Arbor Day thing, to the locals here in town. And that's how we're giving back to our local area. And then we gave out, we've already given away a couple of fishing poles. We're going to give away a number of different items coming up. But we support youth outdoor education with the money. That's what it goes to. We'll send kids to camp for a week, things like that. So we're not making money squatching. This is a passion. We had an experience we can't unhave, and we're just following it up. And this is where it's taken us since 2013 to here we are today. So, like I said, if you want to follow us, it's Cobble Mountain Critter Project, Mountain Lions and Bigfoot, and the Vogel Brothers. You can check us out there.
Very awesome. And if you guys are into alcohol at all, I will throw it out there because they sponsored my podcast before, so I want to give them a shout out. Arbor Distillery. They're based out of Maine, and they do sell one of their whiskeys up there. One of their whiskeys that they brew up there is it's Sasquatch. I forget the. I'm probably saying it wrong, but it's a Sasquatch whiskey. But it's through Arbor Distillery out of Maine. So feel free to check them out. You can order online, but they recommend if you can get there in person, it's a lot cheaper because it costs a lot of money for them to ship. But they do ship in all 50 states. So so just if you guys want some whiskey, whatever, there's something to keep in mind. Arbor Distillery, they got their Sasquatch whiskey, and they are based out of Maine. So I want to give them a shout out for sponsoring my podcast in the past. So so I just thought I'd throw it out there. When you mentioned Arbor, that's what made me think of them. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that's what we're doing. We're going to hand out we do this thing called the Russell Family Fun Day. It's a town event, and there's between 400 and 600 people, and it's not going to go to the kids, just the kids. It's going to go to everybody who wants one. So there's 400 to 600 tree seedlings. It's probably $600 that we're gonna pass out just in seedlings. You send a kid to camp is $1,000.
wow.
Send 2 kids to
That's
camp.
awesome.
Yeah, and then random fishing poles and gears and classes, and we'll pay for a first aid certification, things like that. Supporting outdoor education. That's
very
what it's
noble.
all.
Very noble.
Very good.
I like that.
Cool.
Very good. Well, Tim, we definitely need to have you back on here because only just interview people. Sometimes we like to just do a random open discussion on Bigfoot and whatever topics come about. Maybe I don't know what Eric's schedule all about, but maybe we could try to schedule something up in a future Friday night podcast here in the future.
Sure.
So we'll figure that out one way or another. But yeah, like I said, we like to have random open discussions, and it goes from the discussions are very random. I mean, we might start off with one thing and jump to another and come back to that's how I am on my presentations. As I tell people, even before I present and everything, try to follow me because I'm very random. Even though I have something set up, it keeps me in order. But yeah, I like to go back and forth a lot. That's how I am.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we got a PowerPoint that's supposed to keep you on track, but
Exactly. Mine don't. Yeah, I do the same thing. Mine takes me everywhere. Because while you're presenting something, even though you got something on your PowerPoint, while you're discussing it, let me tell you guys about this. It just takes you out all over the place. So you can't help it. It's just the way it goes.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Hey, thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I say one more thing? Last year we had the Cobble Mountain Critter Festival, and that went pretty well. This year we're not going to run the festival. We're going to run the festival every 2 years, I think. Possibly. Okay. We'll see. This year we're going to do in the fall, we're going to do what we call a researcher rendezvous. And it's going to be, we have a camp here, so I can have a lot of people come up in the camp. We can have meals and stuff like that. Camp right here at the camp. And it'll be an information sharing event, not a festival or anything like that. It'll be a researcher sharing information, what's going down in Virginia, what's happening in Maine, what do they look like, what is this, that, sharing information. So we're all on the same page, talking the same thing when we're, you something might trigger something from somebody down in Alabama might say something, say, hey, I heard that up in Cape Cod.
Right.
Sharing information, that's all. There's a ton of stories out there, and no one's bringing it all together. There's a lot of information out there. It's in pieces, and I hear a lot of podcasts say we should share information. Well, this is what we're going to do. We're going to I haven't got my date yet, but it'll be September or October. And that's what I'm shooting for. And then it'll be an invitation. We'll send out invitations to researchers. That's what we want. We want to have active researchers, boots on the ground, sharing information. That's what it'll do.
I like that.
That's what we're going to do this fall.
It sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. You said that people can come camp there, you said, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. It's a 1,300 acre property. There's a camp on the property. So I have access to dining halls and, all that stuff. So I could have 200 people here in tents.
Very awesome. So yeah,
Easily.
like say if we wanted to come up, we would just need to have funds to eat there.
Depending when you come, I can have you in a cabin.
Oh, okay.
It depends what we're doing.
You said this is in the fall. Like what month was it?
The researcher rendezvous it's either, I'm trying to get the date September or October. There's a lot of stuff happening, and our camp starts to wind down in August, September. I'd really like to get down to West Virginia and do the Bigfoot Festival this year. Timing, it's just about timing. I'd like to get down there though. I'd like to see
because
that.
the West Virginia Bigfoot Festival, they're doing their event in August of this year. They've been doing it in June, but because I've been there 4 years in a row, so it's a pretty awesome event. It's a lot of fun. You get to meet all kinds of like-minded people. You get to hear people come out there, share stories with you, which is awesome. You learn a lot of stuff there. That's like any event, but that West Virginia event, actually where they're holding it now. Before it was about almost a 4 hour drive. Now it's about 2 hours away from where they're hosting it. I looked it up. They have a whole different part. It's a lot closer to me now. I mean, I might just go. I don't know yet, but
yeah. He's done a good job with it. It started off little, and he's got it to a fairly large capacity, so it's huge.
Yeah,
I think they've done a great job with it. I'm going to potentially be a part of it. Hopefully, we can get down there this fall.
Yeah,
depends on the schedule.
I host the Virginia event, the Virginia Bigfoot Conference, which we're taking a break this year. But I have a Pennsylvania event, which I've held 2 years ago, and it was very successful. Yeah. And my Facebook event page alone has grown over to 12,000 followers. So I got people up there working with me that's trying to find a location for me to host it at again. I had one location, which it didn't fall through. So now we got people like working their butt off trying to find me a good location within reasonable price, and also working on trying to get me a sponsor. Because some of those places are not cheap, and that's why I'm taking a break from Virginia, because the fees and everything cost me too much money down here. So I mean, I'm trying, seeing what I could do with Pennsylvania, and
there's you're right. It costs a lot of money to do what we're doing, and the work that goes behind it is astronomical. There's so many hats you have to wear. You never thought you'd ever be that involved, and oh my God, once you put one on, it's like, it's unnerving. It's like, it's like when you start a year in advance, and that's all you can think about for a whole year.
Exactly.
From parking to tickets. I was lucky. I went through Eventbrite, and that was one.
That's who I've always dealt with. I use Eventbrite for to have my vendors sign up to.
Yeah, in fact, I asked you, I emailed you who you were using for your ticket sales one time.
Eventbrite, yeah.
And you had mentioned that's kind of why I went with them.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, I mean they're very simple. They're easy to deal with. I mean, because I started using them to have my vendors purchase their tickets because it's easier for me to keep track of. Okay, I can see a list of who already paid into it and how much they paid into it. And then if somebody's like, "Oh, I can't do it," then again, you can reimburse
Eventbrite
them.
will take care of it.
Yeah, if you touch up a button, you can reimburse somebody.
Yeah,
That way,
no, dude,
that
it's
way
a
you're not.
no-brainer.
Yeah, that way you're not responsible for handling those funds.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, if I had to do all that, I probably wouldn't have done it.
yeah,
I wouldn't do it. I
yeah.
wouldn't
Like
do
I
it.
said, it is a lot of headache. That's why, like, if I can't find something soon enough, a venue to host it at up there in Pennsylvania, I might just say, okay, I'm gonna not do it again because it's too much headache and too much stress to keep in mind. Like try to figure something out. And
Yeah, I'd much rather go and attend an event and have a good time. If we're speaking, fine. If we're just being a vendor, fine. I
yeah,
just go and have fun and not have to deal with the whole. We had a festival and I didn't see any of it.
yeah.
It was June
Oh,
7th and it poured out. I think we had 150 tickets on events sold. And up here in this little town, that was a lot, believe it or not.
yeah.
We had over
That is a lot.
300 people. Over 300 people showed up in the pouring rain. So I
That's
was I
awesome
was
though.
blown away. I was blown away. So there's an appetite here for it. I just don't want to overdo it. So
Right.
every other year is probably a good deal. And also, our concept was a little different. We didn't have a lot of headliner names, and we know a lot of guys, but we didn't do a lot of headliner names. We had people that were boots on the ground investigators that were actively investigating, and that's who we had come up. And
And that's
these
yeah,
were just regular folks, and they were talking about their research, and that was the beauty of it. Because normally we wouldn't have had a platform to be out there like that. You're a guest speaker, and a lot of these guys that's what we want to do. We want to give these regular Joes an advertise or a chance or a platform to get their stuff out there.
you're right.
You don't want to make it like there's a Bigfoot clique and only these guys can do stuff. There's a lot of guys out there with a lot of talent, and
Yeah,
they're doing the research and it's worthy. They don't have a platform. And we were lucky enough to have a camp in an area where I could provide a platform, and so we did. So Eric and I busted our butt for a year and put together a really decent. We had 12 speakers, and it was nonstop. It was
oh wow.
something. Yeah,
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned you talking about the Bigfoot clique. There's a lot of these conventions. That's what they do. They bring back the same repetitive individuals.
yeah.
Um,
All
yeah, I
good
mean,
people. It's
oh yeah.
yeah,
I mean, I try to bring in boots in the ground as well. Like my very first event, one of my speakers for that event agreed to cover the expenses for Ronald Moorhead. Ronald J. Moorhead was one of my headliner speakers for my very first event. I
well,
couldn't have paid for him off of my own pocket. It was
right.
thanks one of my speakers agreed to cover his expenses. So that worked out pretty good. I've had Todd Neese from Oregon, which he lives in Arkansas now with his wife. But yeah, he wasn't cheap either. But like I said, I've had help. That couldn't come out of my pocket. I don't have the money for these
Yeah,
people. So that's why, like, I get people reaching out from the East Coast, the West Coast, excuse me. Hey, keep me in mind. I say, yeah, okay. I don't have the money for you, but okay.
yeah.
I was like,
And unfortunately, that's our reality. There's not a lot of money in Bigfoot, and if you can't afford to pay big money, that's great. But we simply don't. We don't have a platform for it. We just don't have that platform.
yeah, I'm in the
So
same boat.
we decided to not chase it. Why chase it if you can't afford it, right? So
Right.
we decided we'll do what we can do, and we'll bring out the people that we're working with, and these are the
Yeah.
people that are actually boots on the ground. They're up in Maine and New Hampshire. We brought in Gene Tewksbury doing mountain lion research.
Right.
It's just a nice, cool twist to it.
Yeah.
In
And
New
she's been
Hampshire,
by the way, she's been watching and listening earlier. I know through Facebook anyway, but most of my group
Gene's
chats
awesome.
on here are from YouTube. So yeah.
I think Jean's going to end up with a new podcast herself, probably with these. I'm just hearing about it. I'm not really sure, but I think she's going to be doing something pretty soon. But it's exciting because we got mountain lions to talk about, and to be honest, we're finding that when we say Cobble Mountain Critter Project, Bigfoot and mountain lion research, mountain lion kind of softens it up as far as getting you through the door. They don't think of you as so crazy because there's a mountain lion. We know what mountain lions are. We could see that, you know, touch it, feel it. But this Bigfoot thing is weird. But you said mountain lion, so that's okay. You know, that's acceptable.
Good point. Yeah, good
Right?
point.
I mean, that's not why we changed the name. We changed it simply because we had really an overwhelming amount of mountain lion reports, and no one was doing anything. So basically, we're just going to track reports. That's all we're doing, and give it to the people. Give it to Jean up in New Hampshire or Maine, and you know she'll disperse it the way she needs it.
Absolutely.
But it's good stuff. I love this stuff. So
it is a lot of fun. Again, we all learn from it too. So,
yeah. You know, there's no money to be made. There's a lot of reputations to be lost, stuff like that, work to be lost, jobs to be lost, friends to be lost, stuff like that with this Bigfoot stuff. But
it comes with the territory.
You can't have an experience, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I know I've lost followers and people. It depends. I've always been very blunt and straightforward when it comes to speaking my mind on certain things regarding the topic and stuff like that. So, the biggest thing is
what I try to do is not talk politics.
Well, I was just about to say that. Yeah, I've shut up about that for over the years.
Stay away from politics, you'll probably do pretty good. And you know, no one has to know your politics. That's like these musicians that ass kicking songs, and all of a sudden they get out there and they start talking crap. Of whatever side of the fence you're on, and you don't like it, just play music. I just play guitar and sing. Go do your thing.
Everybody knows Bigfoot is an independent. Come on now.
There you go. Right down the middle of the road. And that's the way it should be. You keep that stuff out of it. There's enough of that. Keep it out and keep it fun. Keep it real. Keep it honest. And it's just a whole bunch of fun after that.
Yep.
And that, I used to be afraid of admitting like, oh, Bigfoot. Yeah, I'm that guy. I could care less now. Yeah. I'm the Bigfoot guy in town. Eric's the Bigfoot guy. We're the Bigfoot guys. People recognize you as the Bigfoot guys, and that's just the way it is.
It's like at work.
It's going to be easier.
Yeah, it's like at work. A couple guys at work say, "Hey, Bigfoot, what's up?"
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. On a professional level with bosses and owners of business, and I talk to judges and stuff, and we talk Bigfoot.
Oh yeah.
They what? I thought you were great all the way up until this Bigfoot thing. It's like, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
Absolutely.
It's a part of it. You can't help it. Once you've been touched by it, it's something you want to figure out down the road. You want a better experience.
In the words of a famous politician, come on, man, you know the thing. So, I just thought I'd throw that out there. We all know the thing, so that's all that matters.
So we're just going to keep it Bigfoot.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. That's right. Gotta have fun with it too, regardless. So that's all that matters. Have fun with it, enjoy it. I mean, we know what we know. I mean, we believe in what we do because we know a thing or two. So that's all that matters.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of respect and sharing some information, and we'll go a lot farther as a community.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of good information out there, but we're not sharing it to a place to where we can maybe make something cohesive with it.
Yeah, and the other thing is too, like I've often said it, I've heard and seen other people make posts about it. I don't care where you stand in the whole Bigfoot or cryptid community. We have to learn to. And I guess this could go along with politics too, but we all have to learn to agree to disagree and not hate each other over it or fight over it.
Just because,
agree to disagree and let it be. So, but
very
it's
good.
all and I guess in some cases it's easier said than done, but we have to try. Just let it go. It's not going to make us any better. To speak our mind. I mean, I still speak my mind when it comes to the whole Bigfoot thing, but I've learned to bite my tongue to a certain extent. But you have to speak your mind sometimes, But, so it is what it is. But Hey guys, I know we've been on here for now over 3 hours and 5 minutes, which has been awesome. So, but for those who are still listening, keep in mind you guys will hear this whole episode on ECBR Bigfoot Radio. If you're not subscribed to ECBR Bigfoot Radio, it's on any of your favorite podcast platforms, radio platforms. We're connected with Media Squatch, which is based out of Virginia, iHeartRadio. I mean, you look up ECBR Bigfoot Radio. It's your choice where to listen to us to. Because a lot of you guys right now are watching through our live video podcast, but of course, all audio. If you want to listen to the podcast while you're at work or on the road traveling, hey, ECBR Bigfoot Radio is here for you. I mean, we're one of many different radio networks out there. So, but I want to thank everybody for tuning in and listening. We had a great time tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. And for future listeners, hey, if you want to watch the live podcast and interact through the live chat, check out Bigfoot Zone, ECBRO, right here on YouTube. So, is where you'll hear everything first before it goes to the radio network. So, again, we really appreciate all the listeners, and I've had several notifications on here. I've had several new Facebook followers show up. I never had notifications for that before until I was seeing them constantly pop up on my lower right-hand screen. So, but thank you guys again. It's been awesome, and we will have Tim back, and hopefully we'll get him scheduled with his brother Eric,
Sure.
and have the Vogel brothers together on here, and we'll have a great discussion, open topic, and we'll go from there. So, thank you guys again, and keep it squatchy. Until next time.
Y'all
All
take
right,
care.
you have a good night.
Take care.